Audiobook, The 100 Ways to Shorten Your Life. By Milco Baute. Written and published in 2023. The human body is a perfect machine, but it has an owner who can be ignorant. The human body is designed to defend and heal itself, but it will only achieve this with our own assistance. Author's note. As a disseminator and researcher, I take it upon myself to express my opinions and gather precise information to alert people about health, well-being, and abundant life, subjects that I have covered in some of my books mentioned in the list at the end of this book. I want to clarify that I am not a medical professional, and I do not possess any medical degree that would authorize me to speak on my own account. The 100 ways mentioned here encompass physical, moral, and spiritual aspects because every action has a connection to life. What originates in the spiritual realm has an impact on this material dimension in which we live. Some of these ways may seem obvious, but I mention them as reminders since every consequence has its cause, and every reaction is the product of a previous action. Thus, it doesn't hurt to remind or mention them to be cautious. I hope that this book serves as a guide for the reader to be mindful of their actions and lifestyle. Through ignorance or whims, one can inadvertently hinder the ability to lead a long, healthy, dignified, integral, and abundant life. Milco Baute. Stress. Stress is known as the set of physiological responses necessary for the adaptation to new situations. Etymologically, the word stress has its origin in the English term stress, which means tension or pressure. The term was coined by the physician Hans Selye in 1930, and in 1950, he published his studies on stress. Stress is caused by a situation in which a living individual or any of their organs or systems, by requiring them to perform at a much higher level than usual, puts them at risk of becoming ill. Stress is the sensation of a physical or mental disturbance that produces frustration, nervousness, and anger in an individual. Stress can be triggered by various situations, sometimes of short duration like traffic, work presentations, and exams, among others, and in other situations, it can be more persistent and complex, such as family problems, illnesses, etc. As a result, an individual can experience either chronic or acute stress, distinguished by the duration. Chronic stress is characterized by its prolonged duration, whereas acute stress is short-lived, caused by a particular situation an individual is going through, without seriously affecting their health. Stress is a normal process that occurs in individuals to help them adapt to the changing demands of their environment. However, it can also affect an individual's physical health, leading to symptoms such as changes in behavior, anxiety, dry mouth, excessive fatigue, headaches, muscle pain or tension, difficulty concentrating, diarrhea, menstrual irregularities in women, eating problems, sleep difficulties, skin issues like acne, sexual problems. Nonetheless, there are techniques that individuals can use to manage stress, such as engaging in exercises or activities they enjoy, eating a healthy diet, avoiding stressful situations, developing a positive attitude toward problems, getting enough sleep, including magnesium as a supplement in their diet, recognizing what can be changed and accepting things that cannot. If the above is not sufficient, seeking the help of a therapist to implement other techniques. Finally, stress can manifest in various forms, such as nervousness, anxiety, and tension. 1. Emotional stress. To be healthy, it is essential to take care of, not only physical, but also mental and emotional health. A person who worries, is constantly distressed, or becomes easily irritated, often or over trivial matters, is emotionally and mentally unwell. This, in turn, affects the body in general, leading to a chain reaction of psychological and chronic illnesses, manifesting in chronic pain. To avoid this, it is crucial to take care of our emotions because, when emotion overrides reason, many mistakes are made. Emotions can lead to negativity, stress, the development of deep-seated bitterness in the heart, depression, and rejection. Not only rejection from others but also self-rejection. My parents were already separated when I was born, and in fact, my father had another woman in his life. This greatly affected my mother, who, according to her own account, attempted to abort me several times. Not with medical intervention because she was already over 6 months pregnant, but with physical blows and falls. My mother was deeply affected by the separation, and not without reason, as I was her third child with my father, who left her with 2 small children and a pregnancy. I don't blame her, and in fact, I had to forgive her to break the curse and the rejection she made me feel before I was even born. Without seeing me or knowing me, she practically wanted to kill me. That's why I forgave her, not only for her sake but for my own. A child, even before being born, feels everything that happens in their environment and perceives all their mother's emotions, which can affect the child not only as a child but also as an adult. For a long time, I felt that people rejected me, and this was not a mere assumption or complex. People genuinely rejected me because my mother had attracted that curse upon me. I want to clarify that I was not born deformed or with disabilities, but the self-induced autosuggestion my mother created in me led me to become a victim of rejection and to feel rejected. Emotions are also contagious, especially when they are genetic. We inherit a lot from our parents, although over time we can become completely different from them. If you are a pregnant woman, I implore you, for your own sake and that of your baby, to take care of your emotions. Pregnant women undergo constant emotional changes that can affect the baby. If you have already given birth, you understand what I'm saying. If you are a man, a father or soon to be one, you should treat the mother of your baby with patience, gentleness, and sweetness. Do not impose, do not shout, do not argue. If you have tolerated before, tolerate even more now because in a relationship, one of the two has to yield, and that should be the man. I don't mean to do something wrong for her whims, as everything has limits. I also don't mean to submit to her whims and abuses. You are the one who knows who you married. I hope for your own sake that she is not a wicked woman. Scripture says in Ephesians 5:22-30, Wives, submit to your own husbands, as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, his body, and is himself its Savior. Now as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit in everything to their husbands. Husbands, love your wives, as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, so that he might present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish. In the same way husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ does the church, because we are members of his body. Emotional stress due to family issues, loneliness, detachment from important things or loved ones, nostalgia, and worry about others should be avoided because negative thinking or excessive worrying will not solve any problem or situation. It is better to entrust everything to God, who has control over the universe and all creation, loves us, and sustains us. Philippians 4:6 states, Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving let your requests be made known to God. 2. Psychological stress. This type of stress occurs when an external force, be it a person, task, or time, pressures us to do something that affects us psychologically. Whether it's related to family, work, or citizenship, it can create psychological stress. For example, when starting a project and setting an inauguration date, it requires the experience, speed, and efficiency of all those involved. Magnates, contractors, managers, and supervisors gather to set the project's start and end date. This can apply to various fields like filmmaking, music production, construction, events, and more. This leads to psychological stress that affects both physical and mental health, potentially leading to depression and nervous disturbances, which, in turn, affect the entire body. Another form of psychological stress is the abuse of power and emotional blackmail. Some individuals exploit the weaknesses of others due to their power, position, and temperament. Toxic people like these should be kept at a distance and ignored. If you have to work with such a person, ignore their behavior and focus on doing your job as if it's for yourself, not for them. If it's your spouse, assert yourself and don't show weakness. Make it clear that things should be as they ought to be, not as they want them to be. Pray for those who love you but also for those who harass you, showing serenity and gentleness, combined with strength and firmness, not weakness or submission. 3. Physical stress. Physical stress can have significant consequences for our health and well-being. When our body is under stress, whether acute or chronic, it triggers a series of physiological responses that can affect various systems and organs. One of the body's initial responses to physical stress is the release of stress hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones prepare the body to respond to a dangerous or physically demanding situation. In the short term, this response can be beneficial, as it enables a quick and efficient reaction. However, when stress is chronic or prolonged, it can have negative consequences for our health. Chronic physical stress can weaken the immune system, making us more susceptible to diseases and infections. This is because cortisol, one of the hormones released in response to stress, suppresses the immune system's function. Consequently, the body becomes less capable of fighting viruses, bacteria, and other pathogens. Additionally, chronic physical stress can affect the cardiovascular system. Stress hormones increase blood pressure and heart rate, potentially leading to a higher risk of hypertension, heart disease, and strokes. Stress can also contribute to the development of conditions such as coronary artery disease and cardiac arrhythmia. The digestive system can also suffer the consequences of physical stress. Chronic stress can disrupt the normal functioning of the digestive system, leading to issues like abdominal pain, heartburn, indigestion, diarrhea, or constipation. Furthermore, stress can heighten intestinal sensitivity, worsening symptoms in people with conditions like irritable bowel syndrome. Another consequence of chronic physical stress is its impact on the nervous system. Stress can disrupt the brain's chemical balance, increasing the risk of mood disorders such as depression and anxiety. It can also interfere with sleep quality, which can, in turn, negatively affect mood, concentration, and cognitive function. In addition to these direct effects on the body's systems, chronic physical stress can contribute to unhealthy habits. During times of stress, people often resort to negative coping mechanisms like overeating unhealthy foods, smoking, alcohol or drug use, and a lack of physical activity. These behaviors can increase the risk of developing chronic conditions such as obesity, type 2 diabetes, and lung diseases. In conclusion, chronic physical stress can have significant consequences for our health. It affects various bodily systems and organs, weakens the immune system, raises the risk of cardiovascular diseases, disrupts digestive function, and impacts emotional and mental well-being. Additionally, it can lead to the adoption of unhealthy habits that increase the risk of chronic diseases. To maintain our health and well-being, it is crucial to address and manage physical stress effectively. Effective strategies include relaxation techniques. Incorporating relaxation techniques like meditation, deep breathing, yoga, or Tai Chi can help reduce physical stress levels and promote relaxation and balance. Regular physical activity. Engaging in regular exercise is an excellent way to release built-up physical stress. Physical activity promotes the release of endorphins, hormones that generate feelings of well-being and reduce stress. Healthy eating. Maintaining a balanced and nutritious diet is essential for strengthening the immune system and reducing the effects of stress on the body. Avoiding processed foods high in saturated fats and sugars and including fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean proteins can help maintain a healthy balance. Adequate rest. Restorative sleep is crucial for recovering from physical stress. Establishing regular sleep routines, creating a conducive sleeping environment, and prioritizing sleep quality can help reduce the negative effects of stress on the body. Social support. having a strong social support system, including friends, family, or support groups, can be essential for managing physical stress. Sharing concerns and seeking emotional support from close individuals can alleviate the burden of stress and promote a sense of connection and well-being. Time management, organizing and managing time effectively can help reduce physical stress. Setting priorities, delegating tasks, and establishing clear boundaries can help avoid overwhelm and burnout. Seek professional help. If physical stress becomes overwhelming and persistent, seeking assistance from a mental health professional is advisable. A therapist or psychologist can provide strategies and tools for effectively managing stress and promoting health and well-being. In conclusion, chronic physical stress can have significant consequences for our health. It is important to be aware of the effects of stress on the body and take steps to manage it effectively. Taking care of our physical and emotional health, seeking support from loved ones and healthcare professionals, and adopting healthy habits are important steps in reducing the negative effects of stress and promoting a balanced and healthy life. 4. Work-related stress. According to the World Health Organization, work-related stress is a global epidemic. Work-related stress arises from the combination of physical and mental reactions experienced by an employee when confronted with situations that exceed their ability to cope. Common symptoms include depression, physical and mental fatigue, and irritability, among others, which can lead to reduced productivity in the company and a decline in the quality of life for employees. Do not rush in your work, fulfill your duties without becoming agitated, depressed, irritated, or ill. There comes a point when excessive pressure can lead to chronic pain or incurable illnesses. Your health is more important than your job or business. The same applies to student stress. Complete your tasks at your own pace, without haste or anxiety. Nothing in this world is more valuable than your health. 5. Post-traumatic stress. Post-traumatic stress arises following exposure to a stressful or traumatic situation that involves physical or mental harm, such as torture, wars, sexual harassment, kidnapping, and more. The recommended treatment for this type of stress includes various forms of psychotherapy, as well as family and group therapies. Depending on the severity of the symptoms, the patient may be prescribed antidepressants, anxiolytics, and mood stabilizers. 6. Thermal stress. Thermal stress occurs in two ways. Heat stress is characterized by physical and mental reactions an individual experiences due to excessive heat, including irritability, fatigue, rashes, burns, decreased productivity, loss of salt and water, among others. On the other hand, cold stress, as its name suggests, is caused by exposure to cold, leading to discomfort, frostbite, clumsiness, and more. Therefore, it is important to use appropriate clothing and consume hot liquids. 7. Nutritional stress. Nutritional stress is the same as a poor diet or malnutrition, which stresses the body and, therefore, makes it sick, and irritable, and destroys it. This is reflected in an imbalance in the body, accompanied by a deterioration in health and quality of life. Eating is a pleasure. Humans don't need that much food unless their work or lifestyle demands it. For example, if they engage in constant and strenuous physical work or are athletes, professional or amateur, who exercise their muscles, etc. Food is nothing more than the energy needed to power our bodies, which are the vehicles we use in this dimension, on this planet where we live by the order and grace of God. The body is designed to be in constant motion, with intervals of rest, relaxation, or recovery. The heart is a machine that never stops while we are alive, and we must maintain and care for it with the necessary fuel, food, exercise, and a healthy mind, as the heart can also experience joy, suffering, and distress. Eating healthily prevents nutritional stress that the body suffers, making it known to its owner through pain, signs, symptoms, fatigue, loss of sleep, visible marks, deterioration of vision, organs, cancer, or other destructive diseases. The human body is a perfect machine, capable of defending itself against external agents, microorganisms, injuries, dust, or gases. It can regenerate, reverse any harmful or life-threatening conditions, revitalize, and recover. The problem is that its owner is ignorant and neglects it, doesn't know how to take care of it, or ignores the signals that the body is sending. 8. Metabolic stress. Metabolic stress is related to muscle growth after physical exercise. What should we know about this topic? Metabolic stress is one of the organic processes that lead to muscle hypertrophy. In fact, there are two options for generating an increase in lean tissue, the aforementioned metabolic stress and mechanical tension. Muscle gain still presents certain scientific questions. It is a complex process that involves different physiological pathways. Some mechanisms are not entirely clear and require more complex and detailed study. In this article, we will talk about what metabolic stress means and how to focus on your diet to favor these processes. However, remember that it is not advisable to modify your diet or training plan without consulting your nutritionist and trainer. Physiology of metabolic stress. Engaging in anaerobic exercise with weights leads to the accumulation of waste products in muscle tissue. This situation promotes changes in the anabolic environment related to increased testosterone and growth hormones, according to scientific literature. For this reason, the increase in tissue growth occurs due to the elevation of hormones involved in tissue creation. Unlike the known route called mechanical tension, where training with heavy weights and few repetitions is sought, metabolic stress originates from the use of moderate weights and many repetitions. Both are methods that lead to increased muscle tissue and strength. However, it is useful to combine these two training methods to maximize their effects and prevent the muscles from getting used to and adapting to a specific method. 9. Hypertrophy and nutrition. Despite the fundamental role of training in the hypertrophy process, it is necessary to complement exercise with proper nutrition. Without supplying the body with the necessary nutrients, it cannot achieve supercompensation. Therefore, to focus your diet on increasing lean mass, you need to consider several aspects. Protein intake. Scientific literature states that protein is the nutrient responsible for tissue creation. For this reason, an intake of between 1.4 and 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight is required to achieve muscle hypertrophy. Zinc intake. This mineral is highly involved in testosterone metabolism. A zinc deficiency can lead to an insufficient secretion of hormones necessary to promote an anabolic environment in a state of metabolic stress. The scientific community associates its deficiency with problems related to loss of strength and muscle mass. Additionally, a lack of this nutrient is also linked to infertility. Carbohydrate consumption. Another important element for promoting an anabolic environment, and with it, muscle gains, is the intake of sugars. This nutrient activates the mTOR pathway. According to scientific literature, this metabolic route is directly involved in anabolic processes such as protein synthesis. Therefore, regular consumption of carbohydrate-rich foods, usually complex rather than simple, promotes the creation of lean tissue. Positive caloric balance. You won't gain weight unless you ingest more energy than you expend. In the opposite case, tissue loss will occur in favor of energy creation. Therefore, it is advisable to increase daily calories by about 300 to 400 above energy expenditure to promote protein synthesis and muscle gain. Hypertrophy is a process that should be approached following basic guidelines. Metabolic stress is one of the identified pathways to increase lean mass. In practice, it involves performing workouts with moderate weights and a high number of repetitions. Thus, the accumulation of waste products in the muscles, resulting from energy production reactions, promotes an anabolic environment mediated by certain hormones. However, this is not the only way to achieve hypertrophy. It is most appropriate to combine different training methods to maximize results. In the process of creating lean mass, nutrition plays an essential role. Monitoring protein intake and taking care of the intake of certain minerals will allow for the supercompensation processes that lead to muscle adaptations. Fear. It's another type of psychological stress, a weakness, and a sin because fear does not come from God. It is the absence of faith, insecurity, and lack of trust in the Creator and oneself. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, and of love, and of self-control. 2 Timothy 1:7. Clearly, fear is a spirit that does not come from God, robbing us of peace, faith, and confidence in God. We fear the consequences of the things we are afraid of. In other words, we are giving the devil a foothold to control us, leading us to fall from grace or become sick because fear can harm the body, disturb emotions, and weaken the spirit. There are many types of fear: fear of losing something material or sentimental, fear of losing family, friends, businesses, jobs, fear of illness, fear of death, fear of being discovered, fear of being confronted, fear of embarrassment, fear of failure, fear of not achieving a goal, winning a trophy, a reward, or recognition. Fear of darkness, fear of heights, fear of flying, fear of sailing, fear of danger, although some, like extreme sports enthusiasts, find excitement in danger and are willing to risk their lives to satisfy their egos and feel unique. There is also the fear or apprehension of offending someone important or less important. The latter can be seen as a healthy fear, although there is a danger of sin in acting hypocritically, being complicit in sin, covering it up, accepting it, or not confronting it. Sometimes, sincerity does not appear to be a virtue and can be painful, but hypocrisy is a sin. It should be corrected with love but also with authority. That's why we must correct ourselves first before trying to correct, warn, or advise others. I have encountered people who want to fix my life when their own is a mess. I like to listen to everyone and accept advice from whomever it comes, because sometimes God speaks to us even through unbelieving people. But we must be an example before attempting to advise or reprimand others. What I cannot do is approve of sin, no matter how noble, polite, or pleasant it may seem, because God will hold me accountable for that. When sin is approved, consented to, or ignored, participation in it occurs. It is written in Romans 1:32. Many people say they don't like to talk about politics or religion to avoid offending others. I would say it's not necessarily about being polite but rather a fear of creating a debate they don't know how to navigate, how to persuade with sufficient argument, or because they don't care, as they are indifferent. Frankly, I don't like debating with naive and ignorant people because, even if I explain, they will continue in their ignorance willingly, driven by confusion, victimization, insecurity, complexes, or low self-esteem. Others believe they know it all and always think they are right, and some are deeply rooted in their beliefs, reasoning, or ideology. That's why I sometimes prefer to remain silent to avoid getting into an argument. However, the Bible says, "Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be just like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, or he will be wise in his own eyes." Proverbs 26:4-5. If we keep silent about the truth and do not help people break free from the bondage of sin, ignorance, and mediocrity, we are sinning unknowingly, but we will also be held accountable by God. However, we must not argue, fight, or become enemies with those who have different beliefs. We do not convince anyone to believe in God and understand God's ways or the strategies of the enemy of souls. This is the work of the Holy Spirit, who convicts the world of righteousness, according to God's word, sin, misconceptions, faith, and attitude towards life, and judgment, the consequences of sin in Satan's end. Reference, John 16:8-16. I believe that the more we know about politics, religion, and economics, the better prepared we will be in life. If we do not attain the three essential freedoms, we will not be complete, fully free, educated, and spiritual. Politics relates to freedom of expression, religion relates to spiritual freedom, and economics is obviously financial freedom. If we do not learn to understand and manage these aspects, we will remain bound, enslaved, and subjected. In my opinion, we should indeed have a good understanding of these matters, especially spiritual matters, let's call it religion, if you like, so that we can live life according to God's precepts and anchored in His promises because we are spiritual beings. The Word of God is not just knowledge of our Creator and His will, it is an instruction manual for life, filled with promises, both of blessing for those who live according to his will and of cursing for disobedient children, testimonies, advice, and laws, statutes, and commandments as part of our Creator's order to live in this world. Furthermore, everything is political since we find it in society, in businesses, in politics, in churches, and at home. The kingdom of heaven has its politics, its order, and its laws, both heavenly and earthly. However, the prevailing spirit of fear in the world today, in the year 2021, is the fear of getting sick and dying. Many Christians know this, while others are Christians in name only or because they attend church, but both groups are often dominated by this fear. If they truly understood what lies beyond death and the purpose of this life, they would not fear death as much, or perhaps not fear it at all. Reference, Hebrews 2, 5-18. The Apostle Paul expressed the following about physical death: "For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. But if I am to live on in the flesh, this will mean fruitful labor for me, and I do not know which to choose. But I am hard-pressed from both directions, having the desire to depart and be with Christ, for that is very much better." Philippians 1, 21-23. Both unbelievers and believers often fear both life and death because they live in constant fear of rejection, failure, loss, and the future. As they focus more on these fears, they miss the opportunity to succeed, fail to achieve the well-being they desire, and withhold the blessings God has for them due to doubts and fear. Do not be afraid, live life because living in fear is killing life or shortening its years. Milco Baute. 10. Fear of death. The more you think about death, old age, illness, or misfortune, the more you attract it. You are calling it into your life with your thoughts and even your words, which have the power to build and destroy, heal and harm, help or hurt others. If you fear a virus or any microorganism created by God Himself and existing long before humans on Earth, some of which develop, mutate, or are created in laboratories for dubious purposes, though under the pretext of studying them to prepare and find ways to combat them, you are likely to become sick because you are attracting it. This is not just a theory, it is scientifically and clinically proven that fear is destructive. It weakens our immune system and emits a harmful frequency that attracts what is bad or feared. The same principle applies to positive thinking, affirmations of positive things, which attract what you desire, assert, or think, be it health, prosperity, or a peaceful and harmonious environment in your world, because we cannot change the world, but we can change our world, our surroundings. What is life? For some, life is simply sleeping, working, eating, resting, watching television. For others, it involves more, exercising, going for walks, and seeking some form of entertainment to fill a void in their soul that they will always have unless they have God. What is death? For many, death is the end of life, a period where nothing more happens, and only memories of the deceased remain. For others, death is the transition to eternal rest of the soul, where there is no suffering or enjoyment, only rest. However, life and death are not temporary or fleeting, both are eternal states of the soul. Life is in Christ because God gives life, and Christ saves it, allowing us to have true eternal spiritual life where we not only rest but also worship and enjoy the presence of the Creator. On the other hand, death is separation from God in condemnation for rejecting Christ, who gives life, and living apart from His will, following our own reasoning, logic, emotions, opinions, ideas, and criteria. One does not need to be evil to go to hell, you just need to be born, as we have all inherited the sin of the first man, Adam. Only through God's grace through Jesus Christ can we be saved from this and attain eternal life. Philippians 4, 8-9. 11. Fear of life. This is another type of psychological stress that affects people who do not know how to confront life with its challenges. Life is tough, but I must be tougher than life. I do not like using the word problem and prefer to say situation, because it implies that whatever is bad or unpleasant happening to me is only temporary. A situation is momentary, whereas a problem can last a lifetime. For instance, being born deformed or sick is a problem. It is something inevitable, although some surgeries and treatments can help. Another example is being sentenced to death or suffering from an incurable disease, which are problems created by our own lifestyle. However, every situation has a solution, and if the world, doctors, politicians, or nature cannot provide one, God will, as we have His promises for those who believe in Him and follow Him. 12. Fear of getting sick. This is very common today in a world contaminated by humans, where news, microorganisms, diseases, and supposed cures are manipulated. There is a constant bombardment of negative news, especially when it comes to health. Life-saving vaccines have become global propaganda, and their intention has never been for the greater good, but rather for global control over all the planet's inhabitants. This constant stream of news about viruses and diseases creates fear and panic in the population, who often naively believe that these monopolistic tyrants are trying to save us, keep us healthy, and make us happy. When in reality, the opposite is true, as it's a global business. The healthy do not generate money, while the sick do. The real intention is to turn us into lifelong patients, and anyone who doesn't realize this is not only naive and ignorant but also hopelessly stupid. Since the alleged pandemic of 2020, announced in great detail in 2019, months before it even emerged, I have not contracted the coronavirus or any other virus. I have only had colds and a stomach infection due to something I ate. Neither I nor my family have contracted COVID-19, and I have no intention of doing so. We have not been vaccinated and are very healthy. I haven't been vaccinated since I entered military service almost 40 years ago, and for the past 20 years, I have not fallen ill with any disease that has left me bedridden or with a fever. I have wear and tear and pain because I am 55 years old, with a nutritionally unfavorable lifestyle that I am trying to reverse after learning more about it, which is why I am writing about it. I am willing and determined to extend my life, not shorten it, as I have been doing through neglect and ignorance. 13. Fear of loneliness. This is something that everyone fears. Loneliness is an emotional stress that causes anxiety and depression. Remember that when we talk about stress, we talk about illnesses that it produces, because stress is the cause of mental and cellular deterioration, soul and body. Fear is fatal to health, no matter what. It shortens the life of those who suffer from it excessively. Although fear is natural, and it helps us be cautious or avoid adverse, unfavorable, or dangerous circumstances, excessive fear is a door that opens to the devil and his demons. It's like jealousy when it gets out of control, it becomes sickly, a demon that takes over its victim. It is said that loneliness is a bad advisor. I would say that fear is the bad advisor because when one fears loneliness, one tends to make decisions that can affect one's life or health, or progress. One acts impulsively to avoid loneliness, and that's when problems, situations, or circumstances arise that depress us or harm us. Do not be afraid of loneliness, face it with courage and learn something from it. Sometimes loneliness is necessary for reflection, meditation, reading, learning, studying, or researching, communicating with the Creator, and analyzing the next move. Decision-making must have a well-prepared and analyzed plan. It should not be done recklessly or out of emotion. This applies to everything: partner, family, work, business, well-being, health, and feelings. You should feel peace and security when making a decision. 14. Fear of loss. The fear of loss is an emotion that can significantly affect a person's mental health, generating anxiety and depression. The idea of losing something or someone valuable can generate a great deal of emotional stress, leading to a state of anxiety that can be overwhelming. Loss can take many different forms, such as the loss of a loved one, a relationship, a job, health, or property, among other things. Each of these losses can have a different emotional impact on a person, and the fear of loss can manifest in many ways. Anxiety is a natural response to the fear of loss. There may be a constant sense of restlessness, an irrational fear of the unknown, and a fear of what may happen in the future. Anxiety can also manifest as physical symptoms, such as cold sweats, heart palpitations, and muscle tension. Depression can also be a response to the fear of loss. When someone loses something or someone valuable, they may feel a deep sadness that seems like it will never go away. They may lose interest in things they once enjoyed, feel hopeless, and have difficulty sleeping. It is important to recognize that the fear of loss is a natural emotion that we all experience at some point in our lives. However, when anxiety and depression become a continuous and persistent response, they can have a negative impact on a person's quality of life. To overcome the fear of loss, it is important to seek emotional help and support. Friends and family can be an invaluable source of support in difficult times. Therapy can also be a useful tool to help a person understand and process their emotions. Meditation and mindfulness practice can also help a person reduce their anxiety and depression by focusing on the present and accepting things that cannot be changed. In conclusion, the fear of loss is a natural emotion that can generate anxiety and depression. It is important to seek emotional help and support to overcome these negative emotions and regain the quality of life. With time and practice, it is possible to overcome the fear of loss and find happiness in life once again. 15. Complaining, regretting, and bitterness. Complaining, regretting, and bitterness are behaviors that can have negative effects on a person's health. These behaviors may seem harmless, but they can actually affect the mental and physical health of a person in various ways. Constant complaining can have a negative effect on a person's mental health. When a person constantly complains, they are focusing their attention on the negative aspects of the situation and not seeking solutions. This can create a negative mindset and increase stress and anxiety. Furthermore, constant complaining can also affect a person's physical health. Chronic stress caused by constant complaining can lead to health problems such as headaches, stomach aches, fatigue, and chronic diseases. Regretting can also have a negative effect on a person's mental health. Regret focuses on the past and can lead a person to feel trapped in a cycle of negative thoughts. This can lead to depression and anxiety. Bitterness is another behavior that can have negative effects on health. Bitterness focuses on negative feelings towards someone or something and can lead a person to have constant resentment and anger. This can affect a person's mental and physical health, increasing the risk of cardiovascular disease, gastrointestinal problems, and sleep problems. It is important to recognize that these behaviors are not healthy and to seek ways to change them. One way to change these behaviors is to practice gratitude. Gratitude focuses on the positive things in life and can help change a person's negative mindset. Another way to change these behaviors is to practice problem solving. Instead of complaining, regretting, or becoming bitter about a situation, a person can look for solutions and focus on what they can do to improve the situation. In conclusion, complaining, regretting, and bitterness are behaviors that can have negative effects on a person's health. It is important to recognize these behaviors and seek ways to change them to improve mental and physical health. Practicing gratitude and problem solving are effective ways to change these behaviors and improve the quality of life. 16. Not loving and honoring parents. Exodus 20:12 Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. This is the fifth commandment and the first with a promise. I do not believe that there is a person in the world who has not respected, loved, and honored their parents, who have lived a long life, because this is not a simple concept, a myth, religious issue. This is the truth. It is a spiritual law with a guaranteed promise for this life. The other points that I explained earlier, although important, this one means a key to ensuring a long life on earth. Logically, that does not mean that just by doing that, I am going to live many years, because whoever violates one commandment violates them all and is guilty of judgment. James 2 verse 10. There are commandments for everything and everyone, for children, parents, siblings, neighbors, bosses, employees, free and slaves. Everything has its law and order according to the will of God and not of men. Nor are we bound by the commandments that were given by God to the people of Israel as knowledge of sin, and this demonstrates that no human being is capable of fulfilling them to the letter. That is why Christ came and died on the cross, to be the perfect sacrifice before God and to redeem our sins, Hebrews 9:11, because it was necessary to shed the blood of a lamb as a remission of sin, Hebrews 9:22, and Jesus is the Lamb of God, John 1:29-34. With the death and resurrection of Christ, we enter another era of dispensation of time, and now we live under grace and not under the law, Ephesians 2:8. For this reason, the New Testament or New Covenant is written, since no one could be saved by the law. Everything written in the Old Testament was a symbol and image of what was to come, the Savior of the world as an ideal sacrifice, so that all, Jews and non-Jews, could be saved by faith, a faith with fruits worthy of repentance. So, if someone considers themselves religious and does not guard their tongue from evil, they deceive themselves and their religion is worthless, James 1:26-27. Since religion does not save or make us special or acceptable before God. Do, therefore, the fruits worthy of repentance. Matthew 3:8. And again. Let not, then, who does so, think that he will receive anything from the Lord. James 1:7. There are many religious people in hell, and there are still many who are alive, but more lost than the devil, as the evangelist E. Avila used to say. We are living testimonies, open letters, and we must bear fruit all the time. We live in a world of lies and appearances, and many hide behind a religion, whether Christian or not, believing that they deceive everyone, but they do not deceive God. They hide behind an appearance of religious hypocrisy, but their hearts are far from God, just as it happened with the Pharisees who demanded the death of Jesus, the Christ. Matthew 7:21. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. John 9:31. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but if anyone is God-fearing and does his will, he listens to him. Summary: although honoring our parents is a commandment with a promise, it does not mean that everyone who does it will live many years and reach eternity. Mafiosos, murderers, criminals, tyrants, and wicked people in history who loved their parents died before aging because the wage of sin is death. They themselves were even parents. The Bible does not specify what kind of parents we should love and honor because there are many wicked beings, pedophiles, rapists, abusers, and murderers who have even abused their own children, but not everyone is a parent, even if they have had children, nor is everyone a Christian, even if they say they believe in God and occasionally attend a church. But what it does specify is that we must forgive all human beings their offenses, Colossians 3:13. 17. Being selfish. Selfishness is a behavior that focuses on oneself without considering the needs of others. While it may seem that selfishness can provide short-term benefits, it can actually have adverse effects on an individual's long-term health and prosperity. Firstly, selfishness can affect a person's mental health. When a person solely focuses on themselves, they may lose the capacity for empathy and compassion towards others. This can lead to feelings of loneliness and isolation, increasing the risk of depression and anxiety. Moreover, selfishness can also impact a person's physical health. Social relationships are essential for both physical and mental health. If a person focuses only on themselves, they may miss out on the opportunity to establish healthy and meaningful relationships with others. This can lead to a decline in physical health and an increased risk of cardiovascular diseases, gastrointestinal issues, and other health problems. Additionally, selfishness can have negative effects on an individual's prosperity. Social relationships are crucial for success and prosperity in life. If a person is selfish and does not care about others, they may miss out on the opportunity to establish support networks and collaborations that are essential for success in life. Selfishness can also have negative effects on interpersonal relationships. Selfish individuals may be seen as self-centered and unpleasant, causing others to avoid interacting with them. This can lead to missed social and career opportunities. It is essential to recognize that selfishness is not a desirable trait in a person and to seek ways to change this behavior. One way to do so is by practicing empathy and compassion towards others. Empathy and compassion help a person connect with others and understand their needs and desires. Another way to change selfish behavior is to practice generosity. Generosity can help a person understand the importance of interpersonal relationships and establish meaningful connections with others. In conclusion, selfishness can have adverse effects on an individual's health and prosperity. It is important to recognize this behavior and seek ways to change it by practicing empathy, compassion, and generosity. By doing so, a person can improve their mental and physical health, establish meaningful interpersonal relationships, and enhance their overall prosperity in life. 18. Being ungrateful. Gratitude is a fundamental attitude for happiness and personal well-being. Conversely, being ungrateful can have serious consequences for both prosperity and health. First and foremost, a lack of gratitude can negatively affect interpersonal relationships. When a person fails to recognize or value the actions and efforts of others, it can lead to feelings of disappointment and resentment in those around them. This, in turn, can result in conflicts and a deterioration of personal relationships, which can negatively impact mental health. Additionally, a lack of gratitude can foster a negative attitude toward life in general. If a person is unable to appreciate the good things that happen to them, they may become fixated on the negative aspects of life, leading to increased levels of stress and anxiety, affecting self-esteem, and reducing the capacity to enjoy life. Another negative consequence of ingratitude is the limitation of personal growth. When a person does not acknowledge and value positive opportunities and experiences, they miss out on the chance to learn and grow as an individual. Lack of gratitude can lead to complacency and a lack of motivation to improve and achieve goals, which can hinder personal and professional development. There are also physical health consequences. Gratitude is linked to lower stress and anxiety levels, which can have a positive impact on physical health. In contrast, ingratitude can lead to higher stress levels, which, in turn, may increase the risk of cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and other stress-related health issues. In conclusion, being ungrateful can have serious consequences for prosperity and health. It can negatively affect interpersonal relationships, foster a negative outlook on life, limit personal growth, and impact physical health. Therefore, it is important to cultivate gratitude and acknowledge the positive aspects of life. By appreciating what we have and expressing our gratitude, we can improve our health and well-being and strengthen our interpersonal relationships. 19. Being lazy. Modern life has led to a decrease in physical activity and an increase in sedentary behavior. Laziness and lack of physical activity can have serious effects on health. First and foremost, lack of physical activity can increase the risk of chronic diseases. Sedentary behavior is associated with a higher risk of cardiovascular diseases, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and other health problems. Physical activity helps maintain a healthy weight, reduces blood pressure, lowers cholesterol levels, and improves cardiovascular function. Additionally, lack of physical activity can affect mood. Physical activity releases endorphins, which are chemicals that improve mood and reduce stress. Lack of physical activity can lead to increased stress, anxiety, and depression. The lack of physical activity can also affect the quality of sleep. Regular physical activity can improve sleep quality, which, in turn, can enhance concentration, memory, and mood. Lack of physical activity can lead to insomnia and negatively impact on daily performance. On the other hand, laziness and sedentary behavior can have negative effects on the musculoskeletal system. Lack of physical activity can result in a decrease in muscle mass, increasing the risk of falls and injuries. It can also increase the risk of back pain, neck pain, and joint problems. In conclusion, laziness and sedentary behavior can have serious effects on health. They increase the risk of chronic diseases, affect mood, reduce sleep quality, and can harm the musculoskeletal system. Therefore, it is important to incorporate regular physical activity into daily life to improve health and well-being. Additionally, it is crucial to avoid sedentary behaviors and promote active lifestyle habits. 20. Being indifferent. Indifference is an emotional state in which a person lacks interest or concern for something or someone. Indifference can have negative effects on a person's health and life. First and foremost, indifference can lead to feelings of loneliness and isolation. When a person is indifferent to others, it can push people away from them. The lack of social and emotional relationships can increase the risk of depression and anxiety. Indifference can also affect empathy and the ability to understand the perspectives of others. When a person is indifferent to the feelings and needs of others, they may struggle to comprehend the situations of others, leading to increased frustration and stress in interpersonal relationships. Furthermore, indifference can impact the ability to make important decisions. When a person is indifferent, making significant decisions and evaluating available options can be challenging. This can lead to feelings of insecurity and a lack of self-confidence. Indifference can also have negative effects on physical health. A lack of interest in personal care and health can lead to unhealthy habits, such as poor nutrition, lack of physical activity, and substance abuse. This can increase the risk of chronic diseases and reduce overall quality of life. In conclusion, indifference can have negative effects on a person's health and life. It can lead to feelings of isolation, affect empathy and decision-making abilities, and have adverse effects on physical health. It is essential to cultivate healthy interpersonal relationships and show interest in one's well-being and the well-being of others to lead a fulfilling and satisfying life. 21. Being despotic. Despotism is an authoritarian and abusive behavior in which a person uses their power to control and dominate others. This behavior can have serious consequences for the physical, mental, and emotional health of those affected by it. First and foremost, despotism can lead to high levels of stress and anxiety in those subjected to it. The constant fear of reprisals and uncertainty can create a state of constant vigilance, potentially leading to health problems such as high blood pressure, cardiovascular diseases, and sleep disorders. Additionally, despotism can severely affect the mental and emotional health of individuals. Abusive behavior can result in feelings of humiliation, powerlessness, and sadness in those affected. These feelings can trigger mental health problems like depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and other related disorders. It is also important to note that despotism can create a toxic work or social environment. The work climate or social setting in which an individual operates can be seriously affected by the abusive and authoritarian behavior of an individual. This can lead to constant conflicts and tensions, further impacting the emotional and mental health of those involved. In conclusion, despotism can have severe consequences for the physical, mental, and emotional health of those affected. It is important to prevent and combat abusive and authoritarian behavior in all its forms by promoting healthy and respectful work and social environments that respect human rights. If you or someone you know is experiencing this type of behavior, it is important to seek help and support to overcome the situation and regain physical, mental, and emotional health. 22. Being self-sufficient. Being self-sufficient is a quality many people desire, as it implies the ability to meet one's needs independently, without relying on others. However, excessive self-sufficiency can also have serious consequences for physical, mental, and emotional health. First and foremost, extreme self-sufficiency can lead to overwork and stress. People striving to do everything by themselves may end up taking on more responsibilities than they can handle. This can generate a great deal of stress and anxiety, which, in turn, can have serious consequences for physical health, such as cardiovascular diseases, gastrointestinal disorders, and sleep disturbances. Additionally, self-sufficiency can lead to loneliness and social isolation. Individuals who overly focus on self-sufficiency may distance themselves from others since they don't feel the need to seek support or help from others. This can create a feeling of loneliness and social isolation that can affect mental and emotional health. It's also important to note that extreme self-sufficiency can lead to a lack of self-care. People striving to do everything themselves often neglect their own physical and mental health, which can have long-term consequences. The lack of self-care can lead to chronic illnesses, mental health issues like depression and anxiety, and other health-related problems. In conclusion, self-sufficiency is an important quality, but in excess, it can have serious consequences for physical, mental, and emotional health. It's essential to strike a balance between self-sufficiency and seeking support and help when needed. People who feel they are struggling with extreme self-sufficiency can benefit from seeking support and assistance from friends, family, or mental health professionals to overcome this situation and improve their health and well-being. 23. Being opportunistic. Being opportunistic involves taking advantage of any opportunity that arises, even if it means acting to the detriment of others or ethical principles. While opportunism may bring short-term benefits, this attitude can have negative consequences for one's life, prosperity, and health in the long run. First and foremost, opportunism can lead to a lack of trust and respect from others. People who act opportunistically are often seen as selfish and untrustworthy, which can result in a lack of respect and trust in personal and professional relationships. This lack of trust can have negative consequences in one's life and prosperity, making it difficult to build solid and lasting relationships. Furthermore, opportunism can create a competitive and envious environment, negatively affecting emotional and mental health. The constant pursuit of opportunities can generate high levels of stress, anxiety, and depression, impacting both physical and mental health. It can also lead to envy and resentment towards those who are more successful, which can have a negative effect on happiness and well-being. Another negative effect of opportunism is that it can lead to a lack of ethics and values. People who act opportunistically often prioritize their own interests above others, which can lead to unethical and questionable behavior. This can affect one's reputation and integrity, with potential negative consequences in personal and professional life. In conclusion, while opportunism may seem beneficial in the short term, it can have negative consequences in one's life, prosperity, and health in the long term. It's important to find a balance between seizing opportunities and acting with ethics and strong values. People struggling with opportunism can benefit from seeking professional help to overcome this attitude and build a healthier and happier life in the long run. 24. Being a thief, betrayer, and liar. Being a thief, betrayer, and liar are behaviors that can have negative consequences in a person's life. These attitudes violate the trust and respect of others, leading to the loss of valuable personal and professional relationships. Being a thief involves taking what doesn't belong to you without the owner's consent. This behavior is not only illegal but can also have serious consequences in a person's life. People who commit theft can face criminal charges, fines, and, in some cases, imprisonment. Furthermore, being known as a thief can negatively impact one's reputation, making it difficult to secure employment or build lasting relationships. Betrayal can also have significant consequences in a person's life. Betrayal involves acting against the trust and loyalty placed in you. This attitude can lead to the loss of friendships, romantic relationships, and can affect professional relationships. Betrayal can cause feelings of pain and anger in the affected person, which can be challenging to overcome. Lying can also have a negative impact on a person's life. Lying involves deliberately deceiving others and can lead to a loss of trust and respect. Being known as a dishonest person can negatively impact both personal and professional life, as people may struggle to trust the individual. In summary, being a thief, betrayer, and liar are behaviors that can have negative consequences in a person's life. These attitudes can lead to the loss of valuable relationships and can hinder the formation of new relationships. It's important for people to be honest and respect the rights and property of others to maintain healthy and lasting relationships. Additionally, seeking professional help can be beneficial in overcoming these attitudes and building a healthier and happier life. 25. Being a criminal. Being a criminal is one of the most dangerous and detrimental attitudes for a person's life. Criminals commit crimes that violate the law and jeopardize the safety and well-being of others. The consequences of being a criminal can be severe and long-lasting, affecting not only personal life but also physical and emotional health. One of the most obvious consequences of being a criminal is the risk of facing criminal charges. Serious crimes can lead to long prison sentences and high fines. Furthermore, having a criminal record can make it challenging to secure employment and limit career opportunities, negatively impacting financial and emotional stability. Being a criminal can also have an impact on a person's mental and emotional health. Individuals who commit crimes often have to live with the guilt and shame of their actions, which can lead to issues like anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress. Additionally, life in prison can be extremely stressful and traumatic, resulting in long-term mental health problems. Another significant consequence of being a criminal is the impact on interpersonal relationships. People who commit crimes often lose the support of friends and family and may face rejection and discrimination from society at large. Life in prison can lead to social disconnection and a lack of emotional support, negatively affecting mental and emotional health. In summary, being a criminal can have serious and long-lasting consequences on a person's life and health. From facing criminal charges and having a criminal record to experiencing mental and emotional health problems and losing interpersonal relationships, the negative effects can be profound. It's essential for individuals to avoid committing crimes and seek professional help to address underlying behavioral issues, ultimately building a healthy and happy life. 26. Being evil. Being an evil person is an attitude that can have serious consequences in a person's life and health. Evil is manifested through cruelty, insensitivity, and a lack of consideration for others. Those who exhibit this behavior often act in their own self-interest without regard for the harm they may cause to others. One of the most apparent consequences of being an evil person is a lack of healthy and lasting interpersonal relationships. Evil individuals tend to have difficulty connecting with others, which can lead to loneliness and social isolation. Additionally, their behavior can cause pain and suffering to those around them, resulting in the loss of friendships and family relationships. Evil can also have a significant impact on mental and emotional health. Evil individuals may experience feelings of guilt, anxiety, and depression as a result of their actions. Furthermore, their lack of empathy and consideration for others can lead to emotional detachment and a sense of inner emptiness. In terms of physical health, being an evil person can have negative effects on the body. Emotional tension and stress can lead to long-term health problems such as heart disease, high blood pressure, and digestive disorders. Ultimately, evil is an attitude that has negative consequences in a person's life and the health of those around them. Individuals in this state should seek professional help to address the underlying issues that lead to their evil behavior. It's important to remember that changing how one relates to others can have a significant impact on overall life and health. Through empathy, compassion, and consideration for others, people can create healthier and more fulfilling relationships, which can have long-term positive effects on their life and health. 27. Being skeptical. Skepticism or a lack of belief in God can have significant consequences in a person's life. While every individual has the right to believe or not believe in a divine entity, it's essential to recognize that belief in God has been an important part of human history and culture, playing a role in the development of value systems and morality. For some people, a lack of belief in God can lead to a sense of purposelessness or meaninglessness in life. Belief in a higher being can provide a sense of direction and purpose, which can help people find a sense of community and connection with others. Lack of belief in God can lead to the feeling that life lacks a higher purpose, potentially leading to depression, anxiety, and a lack of motivation. Moreover, a lack of belief in God can have consequences for a person's morality and ethics. Belief in God has often been used as a foundation for the development of value systems and morality. Without this belief, some individuals may struggle to determine what is right and wrong, leading to a sense of ambiguous morality and a lack of direction in life. On the other hand, some people may find that a lack of belief in God allows them to be more independent and autonomous in decision-making. Without adhering to religious norms or practices, these individuals may have more freedom to live according to their own values and principles. In the end, the lack of belief in God can have both positive and negative consequences in a person's life. It's essential for each individual to make their own decision regarding belief or lack of belief in God and to seek answers to their questions and concerns through education, reflection, and arguments with others. 28. Religious hypocrisy. Religious hypocrisy is when a person claims to believe in God but does not live in accordance with the principles and values their faith teaches. This attitude can have negative consequences in a person's life, as well as in their relationship with God and their spirituality. First and foremost, religious hypocrisy can lead to a lack of coherence and consistency in a person's life. If a person claims to believe in God and His teachings but does not live accordingly, this can lead to a sense of internal conflict and a lack of direction in life. Additionally, it can make the person feel uncomfortable or unworthy when interacting with others, especially those who share their faith. Furthermore, religious hypocrisy can have consequences on a person's relationship with God. If a person does not honor God and live according to His teachings, they may feel a spiritual disconnect and a lack of purpose in life. The lack of consistency between what a person claims to believe and how they live their life can lead to feelings of guilt and shame. Religious hypocrisy can also have negative consequences on a person's relationships with others. If a person claims to believe in God but does not live according to His teachings, it can lead others to question their sincerity and authenticity. This can result in a loss of trust and credibility within the religious community and in society at large. In summary, religious hypocrisy can have negative consequences in a person's life, their relationship with God, and their spirituality. It's important for individuals to strive to live in accordance with the principles and values their faith teaches and work towards being consistent and authentic in their daily lives. This way, they can find a deeper connection with God, with others, and with themselves. On the other hand, believing in God but not honoring Him according to His revealed will in His holy word, but according to religion, traditions, and human reasoning, exposes one to the consequences because they lose the divine protection that God promises to those who love and worship Him in spirit and truth. 29. Challenging or mocking God. Challenging or mocking God are attitudes that can have serious consequences in a person's life. First and foremost, these attitudes can lead to a lack of respect for the sacred and an attitude of arrogance and lack of humility. This can result in a spiritual disconnection and a lack of purpose in life. Additionally, challenging or mocking God can lead to a loss of faith and a lack of trust in life. If a person believes in God but challenges His power or ridicules Him, they may feel that their faith is not sufficient to overcome life's challenges. This can lead to a sense of hopelessness and a lack of purpose. Another negative consequence of challenging or mocking God is the possibility of divine punishment. If a person challenges or mocks God, they may be provoking a divine response that can be painful and challenging to handle. This attitude can lead to feelings of guilt and repentance, as well as a desire to seek reconciliation with God. In conclusion, challenging or mocking God are attitudes that can have negative consequences in a person's life. It's important for individuals to respect the sacred and work to develop an attitude of humility and respect toward God and His teachings. This way, they can find a deeper spiritual connection and greater peace and harmony in life. Anyone who challenges or mocks God is exposed to His judgments, which can affect their life, health, finances, relationships, and even their eternity. 30. Repaying evil for good. Petty behavior and malice are two characteristics that can have negative consequences in a person's life and health. People who are petty and malicious often have a selfish, distrustful, and unempathetic attitude towards others, which can lead to problems in various areas of their lives. First and foremost, petty and malicious individuals can have difficulties in their interpersonal relationships. With a selfish and unempathetic attitude, they can push people away from their lives and have difficulty in establishing lasting and fulfilling connections. Additionally, they often struggle with communication and conflict resolution, which can create tension and stress in interpersonal relationships. Secondly, pettiness and malice can have negative consequences on a person's mental health. Those who are petty and malicious tend to be distrustful of others, which can create a constant state of anxiety and stress. Moreover, they often have a pessimistic view of life and low self-esteem, which can lead to issues like depression, anxiety, and other emotional disorders. Thirdly, pettiness and malice can have negative effects on a person's physical health. Constant stress and anxiety can impact the immune system and increase the risk of cardiovascular diseases and other health problems. Furthermore, the lack of empathy and selfish attitude can lead to unhealthy habits, such as sedentary behavior, poor diet, and excessive alcohol and tobacco consumption. In conclusion, pettiness and malice are two characteristics that can have negative consequences in various areas of a person's life, including interpersonal relationships, mental health, and physical health. It's crucial to recognize these characteristics and work on developing a more empathetic, compassionate, and positive attitude towards others and oneself. This can lead to a more satisfying and healthier life. 31. Repaying evil for evil. Seeking revenge. Seeking revenge is one of the most primal responses of human beings to an offense or injury. However, this response can have severe consequences for an individual's life, morality, and health. First and foremost, seeking revenge can lead to an endless cycle of violence and hatred. When attempting to harm another person, there is a risk of provoking an equally violent and vengeful response, leading to an escalation of conflicts and tensions. Seeking revenge can also affect the moral compass of an individual, as the desire to harm others can contradict their values and ethical principles. Secondly, seeking revenge can impact a person's mental health. The need for revenge can create a constant state of anxiety, stress, and anger, which can lead to problems like depression, anxiety, and other emotional disorders. Furthermore, seeking revenge can affect a person's ability to establish satisfying and lasting interpersonal relationships, as it can generate mistrust and resentment in their environment. Thirdly, seeking revenge can have physical health consequences. The need for revenge can lead to unhealthy habits, such as excessive alcohol and substance consumption, sleep deprivation, and physical inactivity. Additionally, constant tension and stress can affect the immune system and increase the risk of cardiovascular diseases and other health issues. In conclusion, seeking revenge can have severe consequences for an individual's life, as it can create an unending cycle of violence and hatred. It's essential to recognize that revenge is not an effective solution to problems and can lead to a life of suffering and pain. Instead of seeking revenge, it is important to explore ways to resolve conflicts peacefully and constructively, which can lead to a more satisfying and healthier life. 32. Making satanic pacts. Making satanic pacts can have serious consequences for a person's life and health. These pacts often involve the surrender of one's soul to dark forces in exchange for power, wealth, or fame, which can lead to negative consequences in various areas of life. First and foremost, making satanic pacts can have negative consequences in a person's social and family life. By surrendering to dark forces, there is a risk of distancing oneself from loved ones and from the values and ethical principles that guide us. Additionally, satanic pacts can lead to antisocial behaviors, such as drug use, violence, or the commission of crimes. Secondly, making satanic pacts can have negative consequences on a person's mental health. Surrendering to dark forces can create a constant state of anxiety, fear, and paranoia, which can lead to problems like depression, anxiety, and other emotional disorders. Additionally, satanic pacts can lead to the loss of identity and self-esteem, negatively affecting one's mental health. Thirdly, making satanic pacts can have negative consequences on a person's physical health. Satanic rituals can involve dangerous practices, such as the consumption of toxic substances or the use of sharp objects, which can lead to injuries or even death. Furthermore, satanic pacts can lead to the adoption of unhealthy habits, such as sleep deprivation, poor nutrition, or excessive alcohol and tobacco consumption. In conclusion, making satanic pacts can have severe consequences for a person's life and health. It is important to recognize that these pacts are not an effective solution to life's problems and can lead to a life of suffering and pain. Instead of seeking power and wealth at any cost, it is crucial to seek ways to improve our lives in a healthy and constructive manner, which can lead to a more satisfying and healthier life. 33. Living dissatisfied and having no desire to do anything. Living dissatisfied and having no desire to do anything can have serious consequences for a person's life. The lack of motivation and interest in life can lead to a constant sense of emptiness and hopelessness, negatively impacting mental and physical health. First and foremost, the lack of motivation and interest in life can lead to issues like depression and anxiety. The constant feeling of dissatisfaction can result in a low mood and sadness, which can lead to mental health problems like major depression. Moreover, the lack of motivation and interest in life can generate worry and stress, leading to anxiety issues. Secondly, the lack of motivation and interest in life can lead to a loss of social relationships and job opportunities. Social relationships and employment opportunities are vital for personal and professional growth. However, if there is no motivation or interest in pursuing them, important opportunities may be missed. Thirdly, the lack of motivation and interest in life can lead to unhealthy habits. A lack of interest in physical activity and health maintenance can result in physical health problems like obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular diseases. Additionally, a lack of motivation and interest can lead to substance abuse, poor diet, and unhealthy behaviors. In conclusion, living dissatisfied and having no desire to do anything can have severe consequences in a person's life. It is important to seek professional help if experiencing this state of mind to avoid mental and physical health problems and find ways to motivate and develop interests in life for a fulfilling and healthy existence. 34. Thinking about death or wanting to die. Thinking about death or wanting to die are mental states that can have serious consequences for a person's life. These thoughts can arise during times of difficulty, stress, depression, anxiety, or simply due to a lack of motivation and purpose in life. It's essential to recognize that these thoughts are not normal and to seek professional help to manage them properly, avoiding mental and physical health issues. Constantly thinking about death or desiring death can lead to depression, anxiety, stress, sadness, guilt, hopelessness, and a feeling of a lack of control over life. These feelings can result in mental health problems such as major depression, anxiety disorders, and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Additionally, the constant thoughts of death can affect sleep quality and appetite, leading to physical health problems. Furthermore, thinking about death or wanting to die can affect relationships with friends and family, as the person may isolate themselves and distance from loved ones. It can also affect one's professional relationships and ability to carry out daily tasks. It's crucial to seek professional help if experiencing constant thoughts of death or the desire to die. A mental health professional can help manage these feelings and find solutions and tools to overcome emotional issues and a lack of motivation in life. In conclusion, thinking about death or wanting to die are mental states that can have serious consequences for a person's life. It is essential to recognize that these thoughts are not normal and to seek professional help to manage them adequately. It is possible to overcome these emotional issues and find purpose in life for a satisfying and fulfilling existence. 35. Not exercising every day. Not exercising every day can have serious consequences for a person's health. Physical activity is important to keep the body and mind in good shape and prevent diseases and injuries. The lack of regular exercise can lead to physical and mental health problems, some of which are detailed below. Weight gain. The lack of regular exercise can lead to weight gain, which can cause health problems such as obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, and cardiovascular diseases. Cardiovascular problems. Regular exercise can improve heart health and reduce the risk of cardiovascular diseases. The lack of exercise can increase the risk of heart problems and high blood pressure. Muscle and bone problems. Lack of exercise can weaken muscles and bones, leading to muscle and bone problems such as joint pain, osteoporosis, and muscle weakness. Respiratory problems. the lack of regular exercise can reduce lung capacity and cause respiratory problems such as asthma and difficulty breathing. Mental health problems. Regular exercise can improve mood, reduce stress and anxiety, and improve overall mental health. The lack of exercise can increase the risk of mental health problems such as depression and anxiety. In conclusion, not exercising every day can have serious consequences for physical and mental health. It is important to exercise regularly to keep the body and mind in good shape and prevent diseases and injuries. Although it can be challenging to start exercising if not accustomed to it, it is important to do so gradually and consistently to reap the health benefits. 36. Eating foods high in fat, gluten, flour, corn, wheat, salt, lactose, and refined carbohydrates can have serious consequences for health. Some of the problems that may arise are cardiovascular problems. Excessive consumption of saturated fats can increase bad cholesterol and the risk of cardiovascular diseases, such as high blood pressure and heart attacks. Gastrointestinal problems. Excessive consumption of gluten, flour, corn, wheat, and lactose can cause digestive problems such as gluten intolerance, lactose intolerance, and irritable bowel syndrome. Weight problems. Excessive consumption of refined carbohydrates can lead to weight gain, increasing the risk of diseases such as obesity, diabetes, and high blood pressure. Mental health problems. Excessive consumption of refined carbohydrates and saturated fats can cause mental health problems such as depression, anxiety, and mental fatigue. Bone health problems. Excessive consumption of salt can lead to fluid retention and increased blood pressure, increasing the risk of bone problems such as osteoporosis. Consuming processed milk daily can have various consequences for health. One of the main risks is lactose intolerance, which can cause gastrointestinal symptoms such as abdominal pain, bloating, and diarrhea. Additionally, processed milk can contain high amounts of saturated fats and cholesterol, increasing the risk of cardiovascular diseases. It may also contain additives and preservatives that can be harmful to health. Excessive consumption of processed milk can also contribute to obesity and overweightness, especially if consumed in large quantities along with a high-fat and high-sugar diet. It is important to note that each person is unique and may have different reactions to processed milk. Some people may be able to tolerate it without issues, while others may experience negative effects on their health. Frequent consumption of wheat, rice, and corn does not necessarily have negative long-term consequences for health, as long as they are consumed in a balanced way and in conjunction with other nutritious foods. However, excessive and unbalanced consumption of these foods can lead to negative consequences, such as an increased risk of chronic diseases such as type 2 diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular diseases. This is because these foods have a high glycemic index, which can cause spikes in blood sugar and difficulties in blood sugar control. Additionally, excessive consumption of these refined and processed foods can lead to an insufficient intake of other important nutrients such as proteins, healthy fats, and essential micronutrients. Therefore, it is important to consume these foods in a balanced and varied way, complementing them with other sources of nutrients and avoiding excessive consumption of refined and processed foods. In conclusion, excessive consumption of fats, gluten, flour, corn, wheat, salt, lactose, and refined carbohydrates can have serious consequences for health. It is important to follow a balanced and varied diet, including fruits, vegetables, proteins, and healthy fats to keep the body and mind in good shape and prevent diseases and injuries. It is advisable to moderate the consumption of these foods and consult a specialist if there are health problems related to the diet. 37. Eating salt, sweet, sour and bitter foods in once. Consuming salty, sweet, sour, and bitter foods at the same time can have negative consequences for health. Digestive problems. The combination of different flavors can affect digestion and cause problems such as indigestion, heartburn, and intestinal inflammation. Blood sugar problems. Consuming sweet and salty foods at the same time can cause a rapid increase in blood sugar levels, which can be especially dangerous for people with diabetes. Dental health problems. excessive consumption of sweet and sour foods can damage tooth enamel and cause cavities. Hydration problems. Consuming large amounts of salty foods can cause dehydration, as the body needs more water to eliminate excess sodium. Cardiovascular health problems. Excessive consumption of salty foods can increase blood pressure and increase the risk of cardiovascular diseases. In summary, consuming salty, sweet, sour, and bitter foods at the same time can have negative consequences for health. It is recommended to follow a balanced and varied diet, including a variety of flavors, but in moderation, to keep the body and mind in good shape and prevent health problems. It is important to consult a specialist if there are health problems related to the diet. 38. Excessive consumption of sweets, candies, cakes, sugary or flavored drinks, sodas, and sugary beverages daily can have serious consequences for health like weight gain. Excessive sugar consumption can lead to weight gain and increase the risk of obesity. Dental problems. Frequent consumption of sweets and sugary drinks can cause cavities and other dental problems. Diabetes. Excessive sugar consumption can increase the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Cardiovascular diseases. Excessive sugar consumption can increase the risk of cardiovascular diseases such as heart disease and stroke. Mental health problems. Excessive sugar consumption can affect mood and increase the risk of depression and anxiety. Digestive problems. Excessive sugar consumption can cause digestive problems such as irritable bowel syndrome and intestinal inflammation. In summary, excessive consumption of sweets, candies, cakes, sugary or flavored drinks, sodas, and a lot of sugar daily can have serious consequences for health. It is important to limit sugar consumption and choose healthier options such as fresh fruits, vegetables, water, and unsweetened tea. In addition, it is recommended to maintain a balanced diet and engage in regular physical activity to keep the body and mind in good health. If there are any concerns about health related to the diet, it is important to consult a specialist. Excessive consumption of sweets, chocolates, cereals, and other processed foods containing sweeteners and colorings can have negative consequences for health. These foods are often high in calories, saturated fats, and added sugars, which can lead to weight gain and an increased risk of chronic diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Additionally, some artificial colorings can be toxic and related to behavioral problems in children, such as ADHD. Artificial sweeteners have also been shown to negatively affect metabolic health and the gut microbiome. Therefore, it is recommended to limit the consumption of processed foods and opt for healthier and natural options, such as fresh fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, lean meats, and fish. 39. Drinking sugary beverages during meals can have negative consequences for health, especially when done regularly. Weight gain. Sugary beverages are typically high in calories and can contribute to weight gain if consumed in excess. Diabetes. Regular consumption of sugary beverages can increase the risk of developing type 2 diabetes, as the excess sugar in the blood can lead to insulin resistance. Dental problems. Sugary beverages can cause dental problems, such as cavities and tooth decay, especially when consumed with meals. Digestive problems. Consuming sugary beverages during meals can disrupt digestion and cause issues like indigestion and heartburn. Cardiovascular problems. Regular consumption of sugary beverages can increase the risk of cardiovascular diseases, including heart disease and stroke. Sugar addiction. Regular consumption of sugary beverages can create sugar addiction and increase the craving for sweet foods and drinks. It is important to remember that sugary beverages do not provide essential nutrients and that there are healthier options for staying hydrated during meals, such as water, unsweetened tea, and natural fruit juices without added sugar. If you choose to consume sugary beverages, it is advisable to do so in moderation as part of a balanced diet. 40. Lying down after eating or eating while lying down can have negative consequences for health, especially if done regularly. Gastroesophageal reflux. Lying down after eating or eating while lying down can lead to gastroesophageal reflux, where stomach acid flows back into the esophagus, causing a burning sensation in the chest and throat. Indigestion. By lying down after eating or eating in a reclined position, you can interfere with proper digestion, leading to indigestion, abdominal pain, and other digestive issues. Weight gain. Eating while lying down or lying down immediately after eating can contribute to weight gain, as food is not efficiently burned and may be stored as fat. Insomnia. Eating before bed or lying down immediately after eating can lead to insomnia, as it can be challenging to fall asleep with a full stomach. Respiratory problems. If you suffer from sleep apnea or other respiratory problems, eating while lying down can worsen these issues and cause difficulty breathing. Circulatory problems. Eating while lying down or lying down after eating can interfere with proper blood circulation, potentially leading to long-term health problems. In general, it is recommended to wait at least 2 hours after eating before lying down and to avoid eating in a reclined position. It is also important to adopt healthy eating habits, such as consuming appropriate portion sizes, avoiding heavy and greasy meals, and not eating too close to bedtime to prevent health issues. 41. Exercising strength training after eating can have negative consequences for health and physical performance. Abdominal pain. Exercising strength training after eating can cause abdominal pain, cramps, and stomach discomfort because the body is working to digest food while the muscles are competing for blood flow. Reduced performance. Exercising strength training after eating can reduce physical performance due to reduced energy levels and increased blood flow to the digestive system. Nausea and dizziness. The combination of intense exercise and ongoing digestion can lead to nausea, dizziness, and even vomiting. Indigestion and heartburn. Strength training after eating can cause indigestion and heartburn as undigested food and stomach acid can move into the esophagus. Dehydration. Strength training after eating can lead to dehydration, as the body works hard to digest food and may also sweat. In general, it is recommended to wait at least 2 hours after eating before engaging in strength training to allow for proper digestion and avoid the negative consequences mentioned above. It is also important to follow a healthy and balanced diet to improve physical performance and overall health. 42. Consuming alcohol every day. Consuming alcoholic beverages every day can have serious consequences for physical and mental health in the long term. Alcohol is harmful, whether it's beer or wine. Liver problems. Excessive alcohol consumption can damage the liver and lead to liver diseases such as cirrhosis and alcoholic hepatitis. Cardiovascular issues. Excessive alcohol consumption can raise blood pressure and increase the risk of cardiovascular diseases, including heart attacks and strokes. Sleep disorders. Alcohol consumption can affect sleep quality and cause sleep disorders such as sleep apnea and insomnia. Digestive problems. Alcohol consumption can irritate the stomach lining and lead to digestive issues like gastritis and gastric ulcers. Neurological problems. Excessive alcohol consumption can affect the central nervous system and lead to neurological disorders such as alcoholic dementia and peripheral neuropathy. Mental and emotional problems. Alcohol consumption can affect mood and lead to mental disorders such as depression and anxiety. Addiction. Excessive alcohol consumption can lead to alcohol addiction, which can be challenging to overcome and have serious consequences for an individual's life. In summary, excessive alcohol consumption can have serious consequences for physical and mental health, and it is important to limit alcohol intake and seek help if there are difficulties in controlling consumption. 43. Drug use. Drug use can have serious consequences for physical and mental health in both the short and long term. Cardiovascular problems. Drug use can increase the risk of cardiovascular diseases such as high blood pressure, heart attacks, and strokes. Brain damage. Drug use can damage the brain and affect memory, attention, judgment, and decision-making. Respiratory issues. Drug use can lead to respiratory problems such as bronchitis, asthma, and pneumonia. Liver problems. Drug use can damage the liver and lead to liver diseases like hepatitis and cirrhosis. Mental disorders. Drug use can cause mental disorders such as depression, anxiety, and psychosis. Addiction. Drug use can lead to addiction, which can be challenging to overcome and have serious consequences for an individual's life. Damage to interpersonal relationships. drug use can impact interpersonal relationships by causing aggressive, violent, or antisocial behaviors. In summary, drug use can have serious consequences for physical and mental health, and it is important to seek help if there are difficulties in controlling drug consumption. 44. Overconsumption of coffee and energy drinks. Excessive consumption of coffee, energy drinks, or stimulants can have negative health consequences, including cardiac issues. Excessive caffeine consumption can increase heart rate and blood pressure, raising the risk of heart disease. Digestive problems. Overconsumption of caffeine can cause acid reflux, nausea, and diarrhea. Sleep problems. Excessive caffeine consumption can disrupt sleep quality, leading to issues like tiredness, drowsiness, and daytime fatigue. Anxiety and nervousness. Overconsumption of caffeine can increase anxiety and provoke nervousness. Dependency. Excessive caffeine consumption can lead to dependency, which can be challenging to overcome. Dehydration. Overconsumption of energy drinks or stimulants can lead to dehydration, negatively affecting health. In summary, excessive consumption of coffee, energy drinks, or stimulants can have negative health consequences, and it is important to moderate consumption to avoid long-term health problems. 45. Medications. Self-medication, improper use of medications, and dependence on them can have serious consequences for health, including adverse reactions. Medications can cause serious adverse reactions, including allergies, skin rashes, respiratory problems, digestive issues, dizziness, and loss of consciousness. Organ damage. Excessive or prolonged use of certain medications can damage organs such as the liver, kidneys, or heart. Dangerous interactions. Medications can interact with other medications, supplements, or foods, leading to severe side effects. Medication resistance. Improper medication use can lead to resistance, making the medication ineffective in treating the illness or condition. Dependency and abuse. Prolonged or excessive use of certain medications can lead to dependency and abuse, negatively affecting mental and physical health. Mismanagement of diseases. Self-medication or improper medication use can interfere with proper disease management, potentially causing serious complications. It is important that any medication is prescribed by a healthcare professional, and the instructions for proper use are followed. Self-medication medication dependence can have serious consequences for health and should be avoided at all times. 46. Consumption of genetically modified foods. The consumption of genetically modified, GM, foods has been a subject of controversy for a long time. Although genetically modified organisms, GMOs, have been designed to be more resistant to diseases, climate conditions, and pesticides, many question their safety for human consumption. While there is still no conclusive evidence regarding the long-term effects of GM foods on human health, several concerns have been raised. The primary concerns include potential long-term health impacts, the possible increase in food allergies, and the potential for developing antibiotic resistance. Additionally, some GM foods have been reported to have lower nutritional content compared to non-genetically modified foods. It has also been argued that the consumption of GM foods can have negative environmental effects, such as increased pesticide resistance and loss of biodiversity. While GM foods are regulated and evaluated for safety before being marketed, many consumers still have reservations about their safety. Therefore, it is recommended that further research be conducted to determine the long-term safety of GM foods for human consumption before making informed decisions about their consumption. In summary, the health consequences of consuming GM foods are not yet fully known. Although several concerns have been raised, more research is needed to determine their long-term safety. If you have concerns about GM foods, it is important to consult with a healthcare professional or nutritionist for more information and guidance. 47. Consumption and use of vegetable oils. Excessive consumption of vegetable oils can have negative consequences for health. While these oils are an important source of essential fatty acids, they can also contain high levels of saturated and trans fats, which increase the risk of cardiovascular diseases, type 2 diabetes, and other health conditions. Processed vegetable oils, such as soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil, and sunflower oil, are often used in cooking for frying and in the preparation of processed foods. These oils are high in polyunsaturated omega-6 fats, which, in large quantities, can cause inflammation in the body. They may also contain toxic chemicals like solvents and bleaching agents used in the refining process. On the other hand, unprocessed vegetable oils like olive oil, coconut oil, and avocado oil contain saturated and monounsaturated fats that are healthier for the body. Additionally, these oils do not undergo refining processes, meaning they contain fewer toxic chemicals. In summary, excessive consumption of processed vegetable oils rich in saturated and trans fats can have negative health consequences. It's important to choose unprocessed vegetable oils and consume them in moderation as part of a balanced diet. Consult a healthcare professional or nutritionist for more information on the quantity and type of vegetable oils suitable for your diet and lifestyle. 48. Fast food and junk food. Fast food and junk food are characterized by their high content of saturated fats, sodium, sugars, and calories. These foods are not only nutritionally poor but can also have negative effects on short-term and long-term health. One of the most immediate effects of consuming fast food and junk food is a temporary feeling of fullness followed by rapid hunger. Due to their high calorie content, the body may experience an increase in insulin production and a decrease in leptin production, which can lead to weight gain and an increased risk of obesity. Moreover, excessive intake of saturated fats and sodium can increase the risk of cardiovascular diseases, hypertension, and stroke. The high levels of refined sugars in these foods can negatively impact oral health, increasing the risk of cavities and gum diseases. In the long term, regular consumption of fast food and junk food can raise the risk of chronic diseases such as type 2 diabetes and certain types of cancer. Additionally, the lack of essential nutrients found in fresh and healthy foods can lead to nutritional deficiencies that may negatively affect the immune system, bone health, and mental well-being. In summary, frequent consumption of fast food and junk food can have severe health consequences. It's essential to strive for a balanced and varied diet that includes fresh and healthy foods instead of processed foods rich in fats, sugars, and sodium. 49. Low-quality daily diet. A low-quality diet can have severe consequences for health. Consuming low-nutrient foods that are high in fats, sugars, and refined carbohydrates can increase the risk of various chronic diseases such as obesity, diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular diseases, among others. A lack of essential nutrients in the diet can weaken the immune system, making individuals more vulnerable to diseases and infections. Moreover, a diet low in fiber can lead to digestive problems like constipation. The low-quality diet can also impact mood and mental health. Studies have shown that a diet rich in fats and sugars can increase the risk of depression and anxiety. Another critical factor is the effect of a low-quality diet on daily energy and performance. Consuming high-calorie, low-nutrient foods can result in feelings of fatigue and drowsiness, which can affect performance at work or during physical activities. In conclusion, a low-quality diet can have severe consequences for physical, mental, and emotional health. It's essential to maintain a balanced and varied diet rich in essential nutrients to prevent diseases and maintain overall good health. 50. Not getting sun exposure. Exposure to sunlight is essential for human health because it helps produce vitamin D, necessary for calcium absorption and bone health. However, excessive exposure or a lack of exposure can have negative consequences for health. Not getting enough sun exposure can lead to vitamin D deficiency, which can increase the risk of osteoporosis, as well as heart diseases, diabetes, and cancer. It can also contribute to depression and a lack of energy, as sunlight exposure helps regulate the body's internal clock and mood balance. However, it's crucial to exercise caution and not expose oneself to the sun for prolonged periods without adequate protection, as this can increase the risk of skin cancer and premature skin aging. Proper sun protection, such as sunscreen, hats, and sun protective clothing, can help prevent these negative effects. In summary, not getting sun exposure can have adverse health consequences, but it's also important to take proper precautions to avoid excessive exposure and the risk of skin diseases. 51. Excessive sun exposure. Excessive sun exposure can have serious consequences for health. One of the most common risks is sunburn, which can cause skin burns, blisters, and peeling. Prolonged sun exposure can also increase the risk of skin cancer, particularly in individuals with fair skin, a family history of skin cancer, or frequent sun exposure. Other health consequences include dehydration and heatstroke, especially in hot and humid climates. Dehydration can lead to dizziness, weakness, fatigue, and muscle cramps, while heatstroke can be potentially life-threatening. Sun exposure can also worsen pre-existing conditions such as rosacea, lupus, herpes, and acne. Additionally, it can increase the risk of developing cataracts and macular degeneration in the eyes. It's important to protect yourself adequately from the sun to prevent these negative consequences. Using sunscreen with a high SPF, wearing protective clothing, hats, and sunglasses, avoiding sun exposure during peak hours, and seeking shade when possible are essential measures. 52. Inadequate hydration. Proper hydration is essential for the proper functioning of the human body. When an individual does not consume an adequate amount of water, several negative health consequences can occur. Firstly, inadequate hydration can lead to dehydration, causing symptoms such as fatigue, headaches, dizziness, confusion, and difficulty concentrating. In addition, insufficient hydration can negatively impact kidney and urinary system function, increasing the risk of urinary tract infections and other health issues. Inadequate hydration can also affect the digestive system, leading to problems like constipation and other gastrointestinal disorders. Furthermore, insufficient water intake can have detrimental effects on the skin, making it dry, rough, and flaky, as well as contributing to premature skin aging, wrinkles, and blemishes. Moreover, inadequate hydration can negatively impact the cardiovascular system, increasing the risk of cardiovascular diseases and other health problems. It can also affect physical and athletic performance since the body requires water to stay hydrated and function correctly. In conclusion, not staying adequately hydrated can have severe health consequences. Therefore, it's crucial to drink the right amount of water daily to maintain good health and prevent long-term health problems. 53. Lack of contact with nature. Connection with nature is essential for human health and well-being. When people do not have contact with nature, there can be negative consequences for their health. One of the consequences is stress and anxiety since nature has a calming and relaxing effect on the body and mind. When people do not connect with nature, they may feel more stressed and anxious. Another consequence is a lack of vitamin D, which the body produces when exposed to the sun. If people do not have contact with nature, they may not get enough vitamin D, which can negatively affect their health. Furthermore, there can be a negative impact on the immune system. Exposure to microorganisms found in nature can help strengthen the immune system. If people do not have contact with nature, they may not be exposed to these microorganisms, which can weaken their immune system. In general, not having contact with nature can have a negative impact on health and well-being. Therefore, it is essential to make an effort to spend time outdoors and connect with nature regularly. 54. Living in confinement. Living in confinement can have negative consequences for both physical and mental health. Lack of exposure to sunlight and physical activity can increase the risk of cardiovascular diseases, obesity, diabetes, and osteoporosis. In addition, social isolation and a lack of human interaction can lead to increased stress, anxiety, and depression. Individuals living in confinement may also experience sleep problems, decreased concentration, and impaired cognitive function. It is common for people living in confinement to have an unhealthy diet, as they tend to consume processed and convenience foods instead of fresh and nutritious options. Therefore, it is essential to find ways to get outside and engage in outdoor activities, maintain a healthy and balanced diet, and establish positive relationships with others to avoid the negative effects of living in confinement. 55. Poor quality of sleep. Sleep is a vital activity for both our bodies and minds, so poor sleep quality can have serious consequences for health. During sleep, the body carries out important functions such as memory consolidation, cell repair and growth, hormonal regulation, and the rest of the nervous system. A person who doesn't sleep well or enough can experience reduced concentration, memory, and learning abilities. Additionally, sleep deprivation can increase irritability and anxiety, affecting interpersonal relationships and work performance. Inadequate sleep, intermittent sleep, or insufficient sleep can also have physical effects on the body. Lack of sleep is linked to a higher risk of obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, hypertension, and weakened immunity. In conclusion, poor sleep quality can negatively impact both physical and mental health, making it crucial to pay attention to sleep habits and make necessary changes to ensure good quality rest. 56. Working overnight. Working overnight, whether by choice or due to job requirements, can have significant consequences for health. The human body is naturally designed to function better during the day and rest at night, so disrupting this natural circadian rhythm can affect sleep and wake patterns and other essential bodily functions. Some of the common consequences of working overnight include insomnia, fatigue, daytime sleepiness, sleep disorders, and decreased cognitive performance. It can also increase the risk of workplace and traffic accidents, as sleep deprivation affects concentration and decision-making abilities. Physically, working overnight can raise the risk of chronic conditions like diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular diseases. It can also impact on the immune system, making individuals more susceptible to illnesses and infections. In summary, working overnight can have serious health consequences, both short-term and long-term. It is crucial to take measures to protect the health and well-being of workers, including establishing reasonable working hours and promoting a healthy work environment. 57. Overworking. Overworking can have serious consequences for both physical and mental health. Some of the most common consequences include stress. Chronic stress is one of the primary outcomes of overworking. It can lead to sleep problems, anxiety, depression, and physical conditions like heart disease, hypertension, and diabetes. Fatigue. Working long hours can lead to chronic fatigue, making individuals feel tired and low on energy. This can affect their ability to concentrate and perform tasks. Sleep issues. Overworking can result in poor sleep quality, which, as mentioned earlier, can have negative health effects. Mental health problems. Overworking is associated with an increased risk of mental health issues, such as anxiety, depression, and other mental disorders. Physical illness. Long hours at work can contribute to physical health problems, including cardiovascular issues and musculoskeletal conditions. In general, overworking can have a detrimental effect on a person's health, and it is important to find a balance between work and personal life to avoid these consequences. 58. Breathing toxic chemicals in indoor environments. Breathing toxic chemicals in indoor environments can have severe health consequences. Some of the most common outcomes include respiratory problems. Exposure to toxic chemicals can lead to respiratory issues such as throat irritation, coughing, difficulty breathing, and asthma. Headaches and dizziness. Toxic chemicals can also cause headaches and dizziness, especially in poorly ventilated indoor spaces. Nausea and vomiting. Inhaling toxic chemicals can result in nausea and vomiting, particularly when high concentrations of these chemicals are present. Organ and system damage. Some toxic chemicals can cause harm to organs and systems in the body, including the liver, kidneys, central nervous system, and reproductive system. Cancer. Long-term exposure to certain toxic chemicals can increase the risk of developing cancer. It's essential to take measures to reduce exposure to toxic chemicals in indoor environments. This includes using cleaning and paint products with caution, ensuring that indoor spaces are well ventilated, and using appropriate personal protective equipment when handling hazardous chemicals. 59. poor hygiene or lack of hygiene. Poor hygiene or lack of hygiene can result in significant health consequences. Some of the common outcomes include infections. Insufficient hygiene can increase the risk of various infections, particularly in the eyes, skin, and respiratory tract, caused by bacteria, viruses, and other microorganisms. Gastrointestinal diseases. Poor hygiene in food preparation and handling can elevate the risk of gastrointestinal illnesses, such as Salmonella and E. coli infections. Skin issues. Lack of hygiene can lead to skin problems, including acne, irritation, and itching. Respiratory diseases. Poor hygiene can increase the likelihood of respiratory illnesses, such as the flu and the common cold. Vector-borne diseases. Neglecting hygiene may also enhance the risk of diseases transmitted by vectors like mosquitoes, ticks, and fleas. It is crucial to maintain good hygiene practices, which include regular hand-washing, personal cleanliness, and proper food handling, to prevent these health consequences. 60. Daily microwave use. Daily microwave use has not been shown to have significant negative effects on health. However, some concerns have arisen regarding the use of microwaves for food preparation. While most people use microwaves safely, there are precautions to consider to minimize potential risks. Radiation leaks. Microwave use can potentially cause radiation leaks, though such occurrences are rare. It is essential to ensure that the microwave is in good working condition and has no leaks. If the microwave appears damaged or is not functioning correctly, it is best to replace it. Food composition changes. Microwave use can alter the composition of food, especially if heated for extended periods. This may reduce the nutrient content of the food. Cross-contamination. Using the microwave can lead to cross-contamination if raw and cooked foods are not heated and handled separately. It is important to cook raw foods separately to avoid cross-contamination. In general, daily microwave use is not considered dangerous to health, provided proper precautions are taken, and instructions are followed. 61. Living within 500 meters of a telecommunications antenna and other radiation. Living within 500 meters of a telecommunications antenna has not been proven to have negative effects on health, as long as the antenna complies with established safety standards. Telecommunications antennas emit electromagnetic radiation, which is a form of energy. While this radiation can be dangerous in large amounts, telecommunications antennas emit very low levels of radiation, generally below established safety limits. However, there are some concerns about the potential health effects of using mobile phones and other wireless communication devices, which use technology similar to telecommunications antennas. Some studies have suggested that excessive use of these devices could increase the risk of certain types of cancer, such as brain cancer. In general, it is important to follow established safety standards for the use of wireless communication devices and maintain a safe distance from telecommunications antennas. 62. Eating reheated food. Eating reheated food usually does not have negative effects on health, as long as it is done safely and certain precautions are followed. The main concern when reheating food is the growth of bacteria and other microorganisms, which can cause foodborne illnesses if not heated properly. To avoid this, it is important to heat food to a safe temperature of at least 75 degrees Celsius 165 degrees Fahrenheit and ensure that the food is hot in the center. Additionally, some foods can be dangerous if reheated multiple times or left at room temperature for too long before refrigeration. For example, cooked rice may contain bacterial spores that can grow and cause food poisoning if left at room temperature for too long. It is important to refrigerate cooked rice immediately after cooking and not leave it at room temperature for more than 2 hours. In general, if the proper precautions are taken, consuming reheated food should not cause health problems. However, it is important to ensure that food is handled and stored safely to minimize potential risks of foodborne illnesses. 63. Eating spoiled food or fruits. Eating spoiled food or fruits can have serious consequences for health. Spoiled food and fruits can be contaminated with bacteria, viruses, parasites, or toxins that can cause foodborne illnesses. Symptoms may include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, fever, abdominal pain, and dehydration, among others. Some foods, such as raw or undercooked meat, may contain dangerous bacteria like Salmonella, E. coli, and Listeria. Improperly washed or contaminated fruits and vegetables may contain parasites like Giardia or Cryptosporidium, which can cause diarrhea and other gastrointestinal symptoms. Additionally, some foods may contain natural or chemical toxins that can be harmful if consumed in large quantities. To avoid getting sick from spoiled food, it is important to follow proper food safety precautions. This includes frequent hand washing, thorough washing of food and fruits before consumption, cooking meat to safe temperatures, and correctly storing food in the fridge or freezer. It is also important to pay attention to the expiration date of food and discard any food that appears suspicious or has an unusual smell or taste. In general, it is important to take measures to prevent food contamination and avoid eating spoiled food or fruits to protect your health. 64. Smoking or inhaling smoke. Smoking or inhaling smoke can have serious consequences for health. Tobacco smoke contains over 70 chemicals known to cause cancer, as well as other toxic substances that can damage the lungs, heart, and other organs of the body. Smoking is a leading cause of serious diseases such as lung cancer, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, heart disease, and stroke. Additionally, smoking during pregnancy can increase the risk of complications for both the mother and the baby, such as miscarriage, low birth weight, and sudden infant death syndrome. Secondhand smoke, the smoke inhaled when someone else smokes, can also be harmful to health. People exposed to secondhand smoke have a higher risk of heart disease, lung cancer, and respiratory problems. Moreover, smoke from burning fossil fuels, wood, and other materials can also be harmful to health. Exposure to this type of smoke can increase the risk of respiratory diseases like asthma, chronic bronchitis, and pneumonia. To protect health, it is important to avoid smoking and exposure to tobacco smoke and other types of smoke. If you smoke, it is important to seek help to quit smoking, as this can significantly reduce the risk of serious diseases. If you are regularly exposed to secondhand smoke or other types of smoke, it is important to take measures to reduce exposure, such as going outdoors and staying away from smoke sources. 65. Self-medicating. Self-medicating can have serious consequences for health. Self-medicating is the act of taking medication without proper medical prescription or without the necessary knowledge about the medication and its side effects. Taking medication without the guidance of a doctor can be dangerous because some medications can interact with others, which can have serious consequences. Additionally, some medications can have serious side effects or cause allergic reactions in some people. Self-medication can also lead to aggravated illness or misdiagnosis. Taking the wrong medication or incorrect dosages can harm organs and other parts of the body, which can lead to serious health complications and even death. Therefore, it is important to avoid self-medication and seek the help of a qualified doctor when treatment is needed. It is always important to inform the doctor about any medication you are currently taking, including over-the-counter medications and natural remedies. Additionally, it is important to carefully follow the doctor's instructions and never take more medication than prescribed. In general, self-medication can have serious consequences for health, so it is always important to seek the help of a qualified doctor when medical treatment is needed. 66. Chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is a treatment used to fight cancer. While chemotherapy can be effective in treating some types of cancer, it can also have serious side effects that can impact a patient's quality of life. The most common side effects of chemotherapy include nausea, vomiting, fatigue, hair loss, and an increased risk of infections. These side effects can significantly affect a patient's quality of life and make it more challenging to tolerate treatment. Additionally, chemotherapy can also have more severe side effects, such as organ and tissue damage, blood clotting problems, nerve damage, and an increased risk of other types of cancer. It's important to note that the side effects of chemotherapy can vary depending on the type and dosage of the medication used, as well as the patient's overall health. To minimize the side effects of chemotherapy, patients can take measures such as maintaining a healthy diet and exercising regularly. It is also important to communicate with the medical team about any side effects experienced during treatment, as they can take steps to help alleviate the symptoms. In summary, while chemotherapy can be effective in treating some types of cancer, it can also have serious side effects that can affect a patient's quality of life. It's important to discuss any concerns or symptoms with the medical team during treatment. 67. Not oxygenating the body's cells through breathing and abundant water. Proper oxygenation of the body's cells is essential for maintaining good health. Breathing exercises and adequate water consumption are two key factors that contribute to the oxygenation of the body's cells. When you do not breathe properly, the body's cells may not receive enough oxygen, which can have negative effects on health. Oxygen deficiency can lead to fatigue, dizziness, headaches, and difficulty concentrating. In the long term, oxygen deficiency can contribute to chronic diseases such as chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, high blood pressure, and heart failure. Additionally, inadequate water intake can also affect the oxygenation of the body's cells. Water is essential for the proper functioning of the body, including the production of red blood cells that transport oxygen throughout the body. Dehydration can reduce the oxygen supply to the body's cells and cause fatigue, headaches, dizziness, and other symptoms. Therefore, it is important to maintain good oxygenation of the body's cells through proper breathing and adequate water consumption. Deep and conscious breathing, regular exercise, and exposure to fresh air can help improve breathing and increase cellular oxygenation. It is also recommended to drink at least 8 glasses of water a day to maintain proper hydration and ensure that the body's cells receive enough oxygen. 68. Engaging in dangerous activities, sports, or challenges. Engaging in dangerous activities, sports, or challenges can have serious consequences for the health and lives of individuals. These activities may include extreme sports such as base jumping, skydiving, big wave surfing, mountain climbing, and more. They may also include hazardous work activities, such as the construction of tall buildings or the operation of heavy machinery. The consequences of these dangerous activities can be severe and even fatal. Accidents can lead to serious injuries, such as bone fractures, traumatic brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, and severe burns. In extreme cases, accidents can result in death. In addition to physical injuries, dangerous activities can also have serious emotional and psychological consequences. Individuals may experience post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression after an accident. Therefore, it is important to exercise caution when engaging in dangerous activities and ensure that proper safety measures are followed. Adequate training and appropriate safety equipment are essential before participating in any hazardous activity. It is also important to know personal limits and avoid unnecessary risks. Accident prevention should be a priority when engaging in dangerous activities to ensure the safety and health of those involved. 69. Driving at excessive speeds. Driving at excessive speeds can have fatal consequences. Speeding is one of the leading causes of car accidents and can result in severe injuries and even death. When driving at excessive speeds, the driver has less time to react to unexpected road conditions, such as the presence of obstacles, pedestrians, or other vehicles. Furthermore, speeding increases the braking distance, meaning the vehicle will take longer to come to a stop in case of an emergency. Traffic accidents related to speeding can lead to serious or fatal injuries, including head trauma, spinal injuries, amputations, and severe burns. Both the vehicle occupants and other road users, such as pedestrians and cyclists, can suffer serious injuries or fatalities. In addition to physical injuries, car accidents caused by speeding can also have severe emotional and psychological consequences. Drivers may experience post-traumatic stress, anxiety, and depression after an accident. Therefore, it is essential to respect speed limits and drive with caution. Driving at a safe speed can help prevent car accidents and keep drivers and other road users safe. 70. Defying the laws of physics. Defying the laws of physics can have serious consequences for health and life. Physical laws, such as gravity, friction, and inertia, govern the physical world around us and are fundamental for our safety. For example, attempting to jump from a great height without protection can result in a fatal fall due to gravity. Trying to stop a moving object without proper brakes or cushioning can lead to severe injuries due to inertia. Ignoring physical laws in everyday situations, such as driving without a seatbelt or helmet, can significantly increase the risk of severe injuries or death in case of an accident. Defying physical laws can also lead to risky or reckless actions, such as jumping from a cliff into water without assessing the depth and currents, which can result in severe injuries or even drowning. Therefore, it is essential to respect physical laws and take appropriate precautions to stay safe. By following established rules and regulations and taking proper safety measures, severe injuries can be prevented, ensuring a healthier and safer life. 71. Undergoing unnecessary plastic surgeries or body modifications. Undergoing unnecessary plastic surgeries or body modifications can have serious consequences for health and life. While some plastic surgeries may have medical benefits, many people opt for them for aesthetic reasons without considering the risks involved. Some common complications of plastic surgery include infections, bleeding, and adverse reactions to anesthesia. Moreover, plastic surgeries can leave permanent scars and chronic pain in some individuals. In addition to medical risks, the obsessive pursuit of a perfect appearance can have a negative impact on a person's mental and emotional health. Individuals seeking unnecessary body modifications often face self-esteem issues and anxiety, which can affect their quality of life and interpersonal relationships. It is essential to remember that beauty and self-esteem come from a variety of internal and external factors, and physical appearance is just one part of the equation. It is crucial to carefully evaluate the risks and benefits of any plastic surgery before making a decision and seek the guidance of a qualified medical professional. 72. Injecting chemicals, proteins, steroids, or any other foreign substances into any part of the body. Injecting chemicals, proteins, steroids, or other foreign substances into any part of the body can have serious consequences for health. Even if the substance is injected with the intention of improving physical appearance or enhancing athletic performance, it can cause severe and long-lasting side effects. For example, injecting anabolic steroids may increase muscle mass but can also lead to liver problems, emotional disorders, acne, fertility issues, and other serious side effects. Injecting non-sterile substances can result in severe infections such as HIV and hepatitis. Moreover, injecting unapproved or unknown substances can have fatal consequences. Substances sold on the black market may contain dangerous and toxic ingredients that are not listed on the label, increasing the risk of overdosing or poisoning. In summary, injecting substances into any part of the body is extremely dangerous and can have severe consequences for health and life. It is important to seek safe and legal options for improving health and physical performance and avoid injecting foreign substances into the body. 73. Intense and prolonged suffering or depression. Intense and prolonged suffering, as well as depression, can have serious consequences for health. Long-term exposure to stressful and painful situations can affect the immune system and increase the risk of chronic illnesses such as cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and autoimmune disorders. Moreover, chronic stress can negatively impact the brain and the ability to make decisions, which can increase the risk of mental health issues like depression and anxiety. Depression, in particular, can have severe health consequences. It can affect daily functioning, including the ability to work and interact with others. It can also cause physical problems such as headaches, stomach pains, sleep disturbances, and chronic fatigue. In severe cases, depression can lead to suicide. It is essential to seek medical and psychological help if experiencing intense and prolonged suffering or depression. Proper treatment can help prevent severe health consequences and improve the quality of life. 74. Violating workplace safety measures. Violating workplace safety measures can have serious consequences for the health and lives of workers. Safety measures are implemented to prevent occupational injuries and illnesses and ensure a safe working environment. When these measures are not followed, workers can be exposed to various risks and hazards, which can result in severe injuries or even death. Health consequences may include muscle injuries, bone injuries, skin injuries, respiratory disorders, stress-related illnesses, and, in severe cases, chronic illnesses and permanent disabilities. Furthermore, violating workplace safety measures can have negative consequences for workers' lives. Workers who suffer severe injuries may be forced to leave their jobs, affecting their quality of life and their ability to make a living. In the most severe cases, violating workplace safety measures can lead to worker fatalities. Therefore, it is crucial for workers and employers to take workplace safety measures seriously and adhere to them to prevent occupational injuries and illnesses and ensure a safe working environment. 75. Sleeping with animals. Sleeping with animals can have several health consequences. While many people enjoy the company of their pets in bed, it is essential to be aware of the risks it can pose. One of the main consequences is the transmission of zoonotic diseases, which are diseases that can be transmitted from animals to humans. Some of these diseases include toxoplasmosis, Lyme disease, salmonellosis, and rabies. Additionally, sleeping with animals can increase the risk of allergies and respiratory problems, especially if the person is allergic to animal fur or dander. This can lead to symptoms like sneezing, itchy eyes and nose, nasal congestion, and difficulty breathing. Another potential consequence of sleeping with animals is the transmission of parasites, such as fleas and ticks, which can cause painful bites and spread diseases. Lastly, sleeping with animals can disrupt a person's sleep and affect its quality. Animals may move and make noise during the night, which can disturb the person's sleep and make them feel tired and drowsy during the day. In general, it is essential to consider these risks when deciding whether to allow animals to sleep in bed or not. 76. Animal bites and stings. Animal bites and stings can have several health consequences, depending on the type of animal and the body's reaction to the injury. Some of the most common consequences include infection. Animal bites and stings can easily become infected if not treated properly. Bacteria and other pathogens can enter the body through the wound, leading to severe and potentially life-threatening infections. Allergic reactions. Some individuals may experience an allergic reaction after an animal bite or sting. These reactions can range from mild to potentially life-threatening and may include swelling, redness, difficulty breathing, and anaphylactic shock. Disease transmission. Some animals can transmit diseases to humans through their bites or stings. For example, mosquitoes can transmit malaria and dengue, while ticks can transmit Lyme disease and Rift Valley fever. Pain and discomfort. Animal bites and stings can be very painful and uncomfortable, affecting a person's quality of life. In general, it is important to seek immediate medical attention if bitten or stung by an animal, especially if experiencing severe symptoms or unsure of the nature of the animal. 77. Frequent X-ray exposure. Frequent exposure to X-rays can have several health consequences. The primary risk is ionizing radiation, which can damage cells and cause changes in DNA, increasing the risk of cancer. Moreover, X-rays can also cause short-term side effects such as fatigue, headaches, nausea, and vomiting. Although the radiation doses used in X-rays are generally low, they can accumulate in the body and increase the risk of cancer and other long-term health problems. The body parts most sensitive to radiation are the thyroid, eyes, and reproductive organs. Pregnant women should also be cautious when getting X-rays, as radiation can harm the developing fetus. It is essential for healthcare professionals to perform X-rays only when absolutely necessary and to take measures to reduce radiation exposure, such as using lead aprons for protection and directing the radiation only to the part of the body that needs examination. 78. Not seeking a second medical opinion. Not seeking a second medical opinion can have severe consequences for a person's health and life. Doctors can make diagnostic errors or prescribe inappropriate treatments, which can lead to medical complications or even death. Seeking a second opinion can help confirm the diagnosis and ensure that the right treatment is being received. Additionally, it can provide additional treatment options or even uncover a health problem that was not previously considered. It is important for patients to feel comfortable discussing the possibility of seeking a second opinion with their doctor and to seek opinions from trusted healthcare professionals. In some cases, a second opinion can even save a person's life. 79. Exposure to radiation. Exposure to various forms of radiation can have serious health consequences. Radiation can damage DNA and other molecules in the body, leading to short and long-term health problems. Immediate effects of radiation exposure can include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and fatigue. Long-term exposure to radiation can increase the risk of developing cancer, heart diseases, neurological disorders, and other health issues. It is important to protect oneself from radiation and limit exposure as much as possible. People working in industries that involve radiation exposure should follow strict safety measures to minimize risks. Additionally, individuals should avoid exposure to ionizing radiation, such as that found in X-rays and CT scans unless it is absolutely necessary for their medical treatment. 80. Infrequent medical checkups. Skipping regular medical checkups can have serious health consequences because many diseases can present without obvious symptoms in their early stages. If not detected and treated early, these diseases can worsen and jeopardize a person's life. Common consequences of infrequent medical checkups include increased risk of chronic diseases. Illnesses like diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart diseases can go unnoticed in their initial stages. When not diagnosed and treated in time, they can lead to severe complications and an increased risk of heart attacks, strokes, and other serious issues. Late cancer detection. Many forms of cancer can be asymptomatic in the early stages. If not detected early, they can spread to other parts of the body and become harder to treat. Early cancer detection is often crucial for successful treatment. Heightened risk of infections. If not detected and treated promptly, infections can cause severe complications and even endanger a person's life. Additionally, some infections can be contagious and spread to others. In summary, regular medical checkups are crucial for detecting and treating diseases early, preventing severe complications, and maintaining overall good health. 81. Not taking supplements and vitamins. It is important to take supplements and vitamins to compensate for nutritional deficiencies that may exist in our current diet. Despite fresh and natural foods being the best source of nutrients, many processed and mass-produced foods today are low in nutrients and contain high levels of additives, preservatives, and chemicals. Moreover, modern food production methods often involve the use of pesticides and other chemicals that can further reduce nutrient levels in food. Supplements and vitamins can provide the essential nutrients needed to maintain good health. These nutrients can help support the immune system, improve heart health, maintain strong bones and muscles, enhance brain function, and help prevent chronic diseases. However, it is important to remember that supplements and vitamins cannot replace a healthy and balanced diet. It is also essential to talk to a healthcare professional before starting any supplements to ensure they are safe and effective for you. 82. Being pessimistic or fixating on a diagnosis. Being pessimistic or fixating on a diagnosis can have negative consequences for both mental and physical health. Anxiety and stress can worsen symptoms of some illnesses, while negative thinking and lack of motivation can affect treatment adherence and recovery. It is essential to maintain a positive attitude and seek emotional support to manage the situation in the best way possible. Moreover, it is recommended to talk to the doctor, specialist, or seek a second opinion to clarify any doubts or fears related to the diagnosis and treatment. 83. Holding in the urge to urinate for a long time. Holding in the urge to urinate for an extended period can have negative consequences for health. When the bladder fills, a signal is sent to the brain to indicate it's time to urinate. Ignoring this signal and retaining urine for too long can damage the bladder, and the person may experience pain, urinary tract infections, and, in extreme cases, urinary retention or even kidney damage. Additionally, holding in urine can lead to urinary incontinence issues in the future. Therefore, it's important to urinate regularly and not resist the urge to urinate for long periods. Work, business, or daily tasks that consume one's time should not be excuses to hold in the body's urge to eliminate waste because health and life are more important than tasks. 84. Engaging in hazardous jobs or tasks. Engaging in hazardous jobs or tasks can have serious consequences for health and life. Some possible consequences include physical injuries. Working with heavy machinery or dangerous tools can increase the risk of injuries such as cuts, amputations, fractures, and spinal injuries. Respiratory diseases. Working with toxic substances or in poorly ventilated environments can lead to respiratory illnesses such as asthma, bronchitis, and lung cancer. Exposure to toxic substances. Working with hazardous chemicals can expose workers to toxic substances that can damage the nervous system, liver, and other organs. Stress and mental health problems. Working in dangerous environments can cause stress and anxiety, leading to mental health problems such as depression and anxiety disorders. Death. In the most severe cases, engaging in hazardous jobs or tasks can result in the death of workers. It is essential for workers to receive proper training and have access to personal protective equipment and safety measures to reduce the risks associated with hazardous jobs or tasks. Being negligent, careless, and ignorant about one's lifestyle can have serious consequences for health and life. Not maintaining a balanced diet, not getting enough physical exercise, not resting adequately, abusing alcohol and other drugs, not following safety measures at work, and not paying attention to bodily signals can increase the risk of developing chronic diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, heart diseases, respiratory illnesses, cancer, among others. Additionally, it can lead to workplace accidents and traffic accidents, significantly affecting a person's quality of life and life expectancy. Therefore, it's important to take preventive measures and adopt healthy habits to avoid these negative consequences. 85. Disobeying the law and order. Disobeying the law and order can have serious consequences for life, including facing legal penalties, fines, imprisonment, and, in some cases, even death. Moreover, it can lead to the loss of rights and freedoms, limiting opportunities and quality of life in the future. It can also have a negative impact on one's reputation and interpersonal relationships, leading to social and emotional problems. Therefore, it's important to follow established laws and rules to ensure the safety and well-being of all. 86. Exposing your life to hurricanes and other natural forces and not evacuating when warned. Exposing yourself to storms, hurricanes, and other natural forces and not evacuating when warnings are issued can have serious consequences for life and health. Some of these consequences include severe injuries or death. Storms and hurricanes can cause severe injuries or even death when exposed to strong winds, heavy rain, lightning, tornadoes, and flooding. Property damage. Storms and hurricanes can cause property damage, including roof destruction, broken windows, uprooted trees, and flooding, resulting in significant economic losses. Disruption of basic services. Storms and hurricanes can disrupt basic services like electricity, clean water, and telephone service, leading to difficulties in daily life. Exposure to diseases. Flooding can lead to the spread of waterborne diseases such as typhoid fever, hepatitis A, and leptospirosis. Therefore, it's important to heed evacuation warnings and protect yourself from the forces of nature to prevent severe consequences for health and life. 87. Living in hazardous areas. Living in hazardous areas such as nuclear plants, active volcanoes, earthquake-prone regions, or flood-prone areas can have serious consequences for health. People residing in these areas are exposed to various risks, such as radiation exposure, toxic gases, volcanic ash, and other environmental pollutants. These risks can lead to short and long-term health problems, including respiratory diseases, cancer, neurological disorders, thyroid problems, and other health issues. Furthermore, living in hazardous areas can increase stress and anxiety, which can also negatively impact health. In extreme cases, residents of hazardous areas may be forced to evacuate or suffer property damage, significantly affecting their lives. Therefore, it's important for authorities and residents in these areas to take preventive measures to minimize risks and protect people's health. 88. Not recognizing danger and taking timely action. Failure to recognize danger and not taking timely action can have serious consequences for health and life. For example, not evacuating in a risky situation can jeopardize lives, and not taking preventive measures to avoid accidents at home or in the workplace can lead to serious injuries and even death. Moreover, a lack of danger awareness can result in unnecessary exposure to risky situations, such as driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, which can have fatal consequences for health and life. In general, it's essential to pay attention to danger signals and take appropriate measures to protect oneself and others. 89. Using the phone for extended periods. Excessive use of the mobile phone can have negative consequences for health since exposure to electromagnetic radiation can have harmful effects on the body. These effects may include headaches, fatigue, dizziness, sleep disturbances, mood changes, among others. Furthermore, excessive phone use has been associated with a higher risk of developing certain types of cancer, although studies are not yet conclusive. Therefore, it is recommended to moderate mobile phone use and use hands-free devices to reduce radiation exposure. 90. Sleeping with the phone turned on. Sleeping with the phone turned on can have several negative consequences for health. Firstly, prolonged exposure to the phone's radiation can increase the risk of developing brain tumors. Additionally, the blue light emitted by the phone's screen can disrupt the sleep cycle, leading to insomnia and long-term sleep problems. Finally, excessive phone use before sleep can negatively affect sleep quality and result in feelings of fatigue and tiredness upon waking. Therefore, it is important to turn off or switch the phone to airplane mode when sleeping to avoid these negative health consequences. 91. Using Wi-Fi all the time, at home, work, etc. Constantly using Wi-Fi can have consequences for health. While exposure to electromagnetic waves from Wi-Fi is not considered harmful at low levels, prolonged exposure to high levels of radiation can have negative effects on health, such as headaches, fatigue, sleep disorders, and concentration problems. Some studies also suggest that long-term Wi-Fi exposure may increase the risk of cancer. It is recommended to minimize exposure to Wi-Fi electromagnetic waves and take precautionary measures, such as turning off Wi-Fi at night and keeping the router at a certain distance from sleeping areas. 92. Constantly using social media. Constantly using social media can have various negative consequences for health. Some of these consequences may include anxiety and stress. Excessive use of social media can generate anxiety and stress, especially when individuals constantly compare themselves to others and worry about their online image. Insomnia. Using social media before bedtime can affect the quality of sleep, leading to insomnia and other sleep disorders. Social isolation. While social media can help people stay connected with others, excessive use can lead to social isolation and difficulty in forming meaningful relationships outside the screen. Addiction. Constant use of social media can lead to addiction, which can negatively affect a person's mental and emotional health. Posture problems. Prolonged use of electronic devices and the position in which they are used can lead to posture problems and neck, shoulder, and back pain. In summary, constant use of social media can have negative consequences for health, so it's important to establish healthy boundaries and balance online time with activities that promote health and well-being. 93. Not taking care of yourself after an accident. Not taking proper care of yourself after an accident or surgery can have serious consequences for health, such as infections, medical complications, and delays in recovery. If injuries are not treated correctly, they can worsen and become chronic or permanent. Moreover, failing to follow the doctor's recommendations, such as resting and undergoing physical therapy, can prolong the recovery process and make it more difficult to return to daily activities. It's also important to note that neglecting medical care after an accident can have legal implications if seeking compensation for damages and injuries suffered. 94. Not following healthy and wise advice. Not following healthy and wise advice can have serious consequences for health and life. Failure to follow a healthy lifestyle can increase the risk of developing chronic diseases such as diabetes, heart diseases, cancer, and mental health problems. Moreover, not following safety advice at work or when engaging in risky activities can jeopardize life and personal safety. It's important to consider advice and recommendations from health and safety experts to prevent problems and maintain a healthy and safe life. 95. Following dangerous and foolish advice. Following dangerous and foolish advice can have serious consequences for health, life, and personal development. By following advice without verifying its accuracy or without considering the risks involved, a person can jeopardize their health and well-being and can also affect others. For instance, following advice to self-medicate without proper guidance from a healthcare professional can lead to severe health complications and even death. Following advice to engage in dangerous or illegal activities can put one's life and the lives of others at risk. There can also be negative consequences for personal development, such as following advice to take shortcuts or avoid hard work and perseverance, which can lead to a lack of achievements and success in life. In summary, it's important to carefully evaluate any advice before following it and ensure that it is safe and beneficial. 96. Fighting. A fight, dispute, or contention that ends in violence can have very serious consequences for the health and lives of all individuals involved. Physical violence can cause severe injuries and even death, and it can also have a lasting emotional and psychological impact on the affected individuals. Furthermore, violence can lead to criminal charges and serious legal consequences, such as fines, prison sentences, and a criminal record. It can also affect personal, professional, and community relationships, creating conflicts and division. It is important to seek ways to resolve conflicts peacefully and constructively, whether through mediation, dialogue, or seeking professional counseling. Violence is never the answer and can have devastating consequences for everyone involved. 97. Being promiscuous. Being promiscuous can have several negative consequences for a person's health and life. First and foremost, it increases the risk of contracting sexually transmitted diseases, STDs, such as HIV, gonorrhea, and syphilis. These diseases can have severe health consequences and can be fatal if not treated properly. Additionally, being promiscuous can also have a negative impact on a person's mental and emotional health. It can lead to feelings of guilt, shame, and regret, which can affect self-esteem and self-confidence. In terms of social life, promiscuity can lead to stigma and social exclusion, especially in conservative or religious communities. It can also affect interpersonal relationships and the ability to establish meaningful and lasting relationships. In summary, being promiscuous can have serious consequences for a person's health and life, and it's important to carefully consider sexual choices and practice safe sex to protect personal health and well-being. 98. Living with or being surrounded by toxic people. Living with or being surrounded by toxic people can have serious consequences for health and personal development. Toxic people are those who have a negative attitude towards life, constantly criticize others, manipulate people, and may exhibit abusive behaviors. Living with toxic people can lead to high levels of stress, anxiety, depression, and other mental health problems. Additionally, these individuals can undermine the confidence and self-esteem of others, which can negatively impact personal and professional development. It is important to establish healthy boundaries with toxic people and avoid their company when possible. If it is not possible to avoid them, seeking support and counseling from mental health professionals is recommended to learn how to handle these situations in a healthy and effective manner. 99. Not eating well or being malnourished. Not eating properly or being malnourished can have serious consequences for health. Malnutrition can affect physical and mental development, especially in growing children and youth. It can also weaken the immune system, increasing the risk of infectious diseases and other chronic illnesses. The lack of essential nutrients, such as vitamins and minerals, can cause deficiencies that affect bodily function and overall health. For example, a lack of iron can lead to anemia, a deficiency of vitamin D can impact bone health, and a lack of vitamin C can weaken the immune system. Moreover, not eating properly can also lead to weight problems, such as obesity or chronic malnutrition. Obesity increases the risk of chronic diseases like diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, and certain types of cancer. Therefore, it is important to maintain a balanced and varied diet to ensure that you are receiving all the necessary nutrients for good health. 100. Ignoring all the warnings in this book. Your physical, moral, and spiritual well-being is solely in your hands, and you have the discretion to make choices based on what you believe. Perhaps not all of these warnings may apply to you, but some of them may be ignored without realizing the potential harm they can cause in your life. To learn how to lead a long and abundant life, I recommend my book, How to Live a Long and Abundant Life. To learn about natural ways to heal common diseases such as diabetes and cancer, I recommend my book How to Heal Cancer and Other Diseases. Audiobook created by Baute Production Publisher. Tampa, Florida, United States of America. Telephone number, 813-693-8879. Email, authors@usa.com. The author's biography. Milco Baute Lopez, a renowned Cuban writer, editor, and educator of international acclaim, has woven a fascinating trajectory over the decades. His pen, infused with passion and creativity, has been a beacon of knowledge and artistic expression since 1992 when he began enlightening the world with his insightful articles. The most significant chapter of his life was written on December 10, 1995, when Milco crossed borders and oceans to settle in the United States. This land of opportunities became his new home, and in 2001, with a profound sense of belonging, he embraced U.S. citizenship, merging his Cuban roots with his love for cultural diversity. The pursuit of knowledge and wisdom has always been a constant in Milco's life. This passionate autodidact, eager to nourish his intellect, embarked on a remarkable academic journey. He studied philosophy through an online course offered by the University of Edinburgh in the United Kingdom, and in 2016, he successfully completed his academic journey, becoming a graduate of this venerable institution. Milco Baute is not only an accomplished writer but also a prolific author. From 2008 to the present, he has given life to more than 80 books, showcasing his literary talent in both English and Spanish. In addition to his personal work, Milco plays a pivotal role in the publishing industry as an editor, writer, and distributor, collaborating with other authors to bring their stories to the world. One cannot fully grasp the rich palette of Milco's experiences without mentioning his technical background as a graduate in Cuba in 1986 as a technician in electrical power systems. This distinguished profession led him to practice his craft with skill for over 2 decades before his passion for writing and education led him down new paths. In summary, the life of Milco Baute Lopez is a symphony of creativity, perseverance, and dedication. His journey from the Cuban shores to the borders of the United States, through academic exploration and prolific literary production, is a testament to his unwavering spirit and commitment to cultural enrichment and knowledge in all its forms.